The pen hovered. Damien Varelli's signature was worth $1 billion, and it was about to buy him a bullet. The private dining room smelled like aged leather and new money, the kind of place where empires changed hands over dessert. Then a waitress leaned close, her breath warm against his ear, and whispered 5 words that stopped his heart. "Page 4 will destroy you." The room didn't explode, not yet, but every man at that table knew, when you build an empire on blood, someone's always sharpening the knife. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The restaurant was the kind of place where silence cost extra. Velvet curtains, the color of dried wine, hung floor to ceiling, swallowing sound before it could escape. Chandeliers dripped crystal overhead, their light soft enough to hide the hard edges in men's faces. The private dining room at Aurelius wasn't listed on any menu. You didn't request it, you were invited. And if you were invited, you were either very rich or very dangerous, often both. Damien Varelli was both. He sat at the head of a table that could seat 12 but held only 6. The wood was imported, the grain so perfect it looked fake. His suit was Italian, tailored to hide the lean muscle underneath and the holster against his ribs. Dark hair swept back from a face that photographs loved and prosecutors hated. 42 years old. Self-made, they said. Self-made from what? They never asked too loud. To his right, Marcus Chen flipped through the merger documents with the enthusiasm of a man counting someone else's money. CFO. Numbers guy. Had a wife in Greenwich and a gambling problem in Atlantic City. Marcus was useful because he understood that certain revenue streams didn't appear on tax returns. To his left, Victor Kane nursed a scotch and watched the room like a junkyard dog. Head of security, though the business card said operations director. Victor had done 2 tours in places the government pretended didn't exist, then came home to discover his skill set translated poorly to civilian life. Until Damien found him. Now Victor's job was simple: keep Damien breathing. Across the table, the Korsakov brothers sat shoulder to shoulder, identical in their boredom, Dmitri and Alexei. Import-export, the paperwork claimed. Imported guns, exported problems. They ran the docks in 3 cities and had the kind of lawyers who made evidence disappear before charges were filed. This merger would legitimize years of dirty money, wash it clean through real estate and venture capital. $1 billion changing hands, and when it cleared, Damien Varelli would own the Eastern Seaboard's logistics infrastructure, legally. The 6th man was Gerald Ashford, attorney, 70 years old, liver-spotted hands, eyes like a shark. He'd been protecting fortunes since before Damien was born, and his retainer could fund a small country's deficit. "Page 17, Gerald said, tapping a manicured finger on the contract. "The liability shield. This protects all parties from prior entanglements." Dmitry Korsakov grunted. "In Russian, we call this washing bloodstains." "In English," Gerald replied without missing a beat, "we call it due diligence." Damien didn't smile. He never smiled in rooms like this. Smiling showed teeth, and showing teeth made people nervous. He'd learned young that power was quiet. Let other men beat their chests. Damien preferred the sound of pens scratching paper. The waitress arrived with their entrees. Damien barely glanced at her. He'd learned not to notice the help. They noticed too much already. She was young, late 20s maybe, dark hair pulled back tight, unremarkable, the kind of face that blurred in memory 5 minutes after you looked away. She set plates down with practiced efficiency, movement smooth and forgettable. "Gentlemen," she said, voice low and professional. "Anything else?" "We're fine," Victor said, dismissing her. She nodded, turned to leave. Then she paused beside Damien's chair, leaning in to adjust his water glass. Her hand was steady. Her voice was a whisper, meant only for him. "Page 4 will destroy you." Damien's hand froze halfway to his wine glass. The room didn't change. Conversations continued. Marcus was laughing at something Alexei said. Gerald shuffled papers, but Damien's entire world had narrowed to the soft voice in his ear and the rushing sound of his own pulse. The waitress straightened, walked away, disappeared through the service entrance like she'd never existed. Victor noticed first. "Boss?" Damien's jaw worked. His hand moved, slow and deliberate, to the contract stack in front of him. Page 1. Boilerplate. Page 2. Asset schedules. Page 3. Transfer terms. Page 4. His eyes scanned the dense legal text. Nothing. Standard language about successor liability and indemnification clauses. He read it again. Same words, same meanings. Nothing that would destroy anyone, unless you knew what to look for. Problem? Dimitri asked, his English sharp despite the accent. Damien's mind was racing. The clause on page 4 was standard, unless you understood that the shell companies listed had been used to move weapons through customs in 2019. Unless you knew that one of those companies was currently under sealed federal investigation. Unless you realized that signing this document would link every person at this table to a RICO predicate that could unravel everything. Someone had planted this. Someone who knew exactly how these operations worked. Someone who wanted this merger to become a federal case instead of a business transaction. "We need to pause," Damien said. The table went silent. "Pause?" Marcus blinked. "Damien, we've been negotiating this for 8 months. I said pause." Victor's hand drifted toward his jacket. The Korsakov brothers exchanged a glance that could mean anything or nothing. Gerald Ashford leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, watching Damien with the patience of a man who'd seen every kind of double cross. "Is there a problem with the terms?" Alexei asked, his voice careful. Damien's mind sprinted through possibilities. The waitress. 5 words. How did she know? Who sent her? The Korsakovs testing him? A rival making a move? Federal agent? No, agents didn't whisper. They kicked down doors. "I need 24 hours to review something," Damien said. "Review what?" Dimitri's voice had gone flat. Dangerous. "We have reviewed. For months. Now is signing." "Now is waiting," Damien said, and his tone carried the weight of a man who'd built an empire by knowing when to walk away from a table. 24 hours. We reconvene tomorrow night, same place." "This is insult," Dimitri said. "This is business," Damien replied. "And in business, I don't sign papers I haven't read 3 times. Gerald cleared his throat. "Actually, a brief postponement isn't unreasonable, given the complexity, but—" "Complexity?" Alexei leaned forward. "Or cold feet?" Victor stood. Not aggressive, just present. His jacket hung open just enough to suggest what was underneath. "Mr. Varelli said 24 hours. The temperature in the room dropped. Dimitri's hand disappeared under the table. Marcus had gone pale. Gerald gathered his papers with the calm of a man who'd survived worse dinners than this. Then Alexei laughed. It was a sharp sound, all edges. "Fine, 24 hours, but tomorrow we sign, or we walk. And if we walk—" He let the sentence die. Everyone knew what happened when deals died in their world. Markets got corrected, examples got made. Damien stood, buttoning his jacket. "Tomorrow." He turned and walked out. Victor followed, a shadow with a pulse. The hallway outside the dining room was carpeted in burgundy, walls hung with art that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Damien's footsteps were silent. His breathing was controlled, but his mind was screaming. They took the private elevator down. Victor hit the button for the parking garage, then turned. "Talk to me." "Not here." The elevator descended in silence. Damien watched the numbers drop. Tried to slow his heartbeat. Failed. The doors opened onto concrete and fluorescent light. Their car was waiting. A black Mercedes with bulletproof glass and enough modifications to make it illegal in 3 states. Victor had swept it twice today. Paranoia kept you breathing. Damien climbed in back. Victor took the wheel. They pulled out into the city night, and only when they'd gone 6 blocks did Damien speak. Someone just burned the deal. Victor's eyes flicked to the rear view. "The waitress. You saw." "I see everything. Question is, who sent her?" Damien pulled out his phone. 3 messages from Marcus. "What the hell was that? And call me and the Korsakovs are pissed." He ignored them. Opened an encrypted app. Typed a message to his investigator. "Aurelius Restaurant. Waitstaff working tonight. I need names and backgrounds. 1 hour." "Could be the feds," Victor said, weaving through traffic. "Plant someone, spook you, see what you do. Feds don't whisper. They want you to run so they can chase." "Then who?" Damien stared out at the city sliding past. Glass towers and ancient brick, money and rust. He'd grown up here, back when his last name meant nothing. Before his father drank himself into an early grave and left 13-year-old Damien to raise himself. Before he learned that the world was divided into those who took and those who got taken from. He'd promised himself he'd never be in the second category. Someone who knows how we work, Damien said quietly. Someone inside. Victor's knuckles went white on the wheel. You think? I don't think anything yet. But that waitress knew about page 4, knew exactly what to say. That's not a lucky guess. They drove in silence for another mile. Then Damien's phone buzzed. His investigator, fast as always. A text. Got partial. One new hire tonight, Lila Mercer, 28. Hired 2 weeks ago through temp agency. Address attached. Digging deeper. Damien stared at the name. Lila Mercer. It meant nothing to him. Change of plans, he said. We're going to visit our waitress. Victor smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. What do you want me to bring? Just your personality. We're going to have a conversation. The address led them to a neighborhood that had seen better decades. Brick row houses with sagging porches, cars that were old enough to vote, streetlights that flickered more than they glowed. Victor parked 2 blocks away and they walked. Damien had changed the jacket for something cheaper, less conspicuous. Victor moved like he always did, ready for everything, surprised by nothing. The house was dark. Number 47, paint peeling, mailbox hanging by one screw. Damien checked the windows. No movement. No lights. Could be gone, Victor murmured. Could be. Damien knocked. Waited. Knocked again. Harder. The door rattled in its frame but didn't open. He tried the knob. Locked. Victor glanced around, then produced a pick set. 30 seconds later, they were inside. The apartment smelled like cheap coffee and cheaper carpet. A studio. Barely. Kitchenette against one wall, mattress on the floor, bathroom door hanging open. Damien's eyes adjusted, swept the room. Clothes in a pile, laptop on a card table. No photos, no personal touches. Boss, Victor said, voice tight. Damien turned. Victor was holding up a photograph printed on regular paper. It showed Damien. Coming out of his office building, the date stamp was 3 weeks old. There were others. Damien at a restaurant. Getting into his car. Walking through a parking garage. Surveillance photos. Professional grade. She's been tracking you, Victor said. Damien's pulse hammered. He moved to the laptop, flipped it open. Password protected. He pulled out his phone, texted his tech guy. Need remote access, sending you a MAC address. He read off the number stamped on the laptop's underside. While he waited, he searched the apartment. Under the mattress, nothing. Bathroom, generic toiletries. Closet, 3 outfits, all server uniforms or anonymous basics. This wasn't someone's home. This was a staging ground. His phone buzzed. I'm in. What am I looking for? Everything. 30 seconds later, calendar app. Meeting scheduled for tomorrow night. Final payment, KR. Address in the warehouse district, KR. Korsakov, Russia. Another text. Email draft. Never sent. Page 4, Clause 3B links. Varelli directly to sealed indictment CC-2019-4478. Once signed, RICO applies retroactively. He'll take the fall, not you. Damien's blood went cold. Victor, he said slowly, we need to leave. Now. What's wrong? This is a setup. She's not trying to warn me. She's confirming I know. Someone wants me to run or react, and they're watching to see what I... The window exploded. Glass and wood frame detonated inward in a spray of splinters and lead. Damien hit the floor on instinct, rolling behind the mattress as gunfire tore through the room. Victor had his weapon out, returning fireblind through the shattered window. 3 shots that thundered in the tiny space. Go! Victor shouted. Back door! Damien scrambled on hands and knees toward the bathroom. His ears rang. Plaster dust choked the air. More gunfire, methodical and professional. These weren't street thugs. This was an execution team. He crashed through the bathroom, found a window above the toilet, kicked it out, squeezed through into an alley as bullets punched through the wall behind him. He hit the pavement hard, rolled to his feet, and ran. Behind him, Victor's gun barked twice more. Then silence. The wrong kind of silence. Damien didn't stop. Couldn't stop. He sprinted down the alley, lungs burning, mind screaming. Who? Who set this up? The Korsakovs? But why burn their own deal? Someone else? Gerald? Marcus? He rounded a corner and slammed directly into someone. They both went down. Damien's hand went to his belt, where he kept a blade, but froze when he recognized the face. The waitress. Lila Mercer. She was on her back, eyes wide, breath coming in gasps, no weapon in her hands, just terror. You, Damien snarled, grabbing her collar. Who sent you? I tried to warn you, she gasped. I tried to warn me? There's a hit team in your apartment. Not my team. Her hands came up, not fighting, pleading. I swear to God, not mine. Footsteps, heavy boots on pavement, coming fast. Damien's mind calculated in fractions of seconds. Kill her, leave her, bring her. The footsteps were getting closer. Decision time. He grabbed her wrist and hauled her up. Run! They ran. The alley spilled out onto a broader street. Traffic, people. Damien pulled Lila into a crowd outside a bar, then ducked into a subway entrance. Down the stairs 3 at a time, jumping the turnstile, ignoring the shouts. A train was pulling in. They shoved through the doors just as they closed. The car was half full. Late commuters, tired faces, headphones and phones. No one looked at them. No one cared. The train lurched forward into the tunnel, and Damien finally let himself breathe. Lila was pressed against the opposite door, chest heaving, mascara smeared. She looked nothing like the composed waitress from the restaurant. She looked like someone who just survived something she didn't understand. Talk, Damien said. Now. Who are you? She shook her head, not refusing, just overwhelmed. I'm nobody. I was just supposed to deliver the message. What message? Page 4. That's all. Someone paid me $5,000 to get hired at that restaurant and whisper those 4 words to you. That's it. I don't know anything else. Who paid you? I don't know. It was anonymous, encrypted email. Money showed up in Bitcoin. Instructions said to get close to you, deliver the message, and disappear. Damien studied her face, looking for the lie. People lied to him constantly. He'd gotten good at seeing through it, but Lila Mercer looked genuinely terrified, and terror was hard to fake. Why'd you take the job? He asked. Her jaw tightened. Because I needed the money, and because... She stopped. Because what? Because the email said you'd killed my father. The train swayed. Damien's world tilted. Your father? Robert Mercer. He was a contractor, small time. 7 years ago, he did work for one of your shell companies. Then the company went bankrupt, and he never got paid. Lost everything. Drank himself to death within a year. Damien's memory scrolled back. 2019. The federal investigation. Shell companies folding to avoid scrutiny. Contractors left holding worthless invoices. Collateral damage. Cost of doing business. So you wanted revenge, he said. I wanted truth. The email said if I delivered the message, I'd get proof. Documents showing what you did, who you really are. And you believe that? I didn't have anything else to believe in. The train slowed. Next station. Damien grabbed her arm. Come on. They got off at a random stop, climbed back to street level. The night air was cold, carrying the smell of exhaust and old rain. Damien's phone buzzed. Marcus. Where are you? Korsakovs are making threats. Another text, different number. Victor's dead. I'm sorry. Damien's hand closed around the phone, hard enough the screen creaked. Victor. Dead. The man had saved his life a dozen times, had been loyal when loyalty was expensive, and now he was gone because Damien had walked into a trap. Lila was watching him. What happened? My friend is dead, and someone's orchestrating this whole thing. He turned to her. You said you got instructions by email. I need to see them. They're on my laptop, which is back in the apartment with the shooters. I have backups, cloud storage. She pulled out a phone, cracked screen, cheap model, started tapping. Here, she showed him the email, encrypted sender, professional formatting, instructions clear and precise, and at the bottom, a single line. After delivery, await further contact. You'll get what you were promised. They're going to reach out again, Damien said. Who? Whoever's running this. They sent you to spook me. Now they'll want to see what I do next. He thought fast. Where were you supposed to go after the restaurant? Home. Wait for a message. Your home just got shot up. They know you're with me now, which means they'll adapt. He looked around. Late night storefronts, closed restaurants, a hotel sign glowing 3 blocks down. We need somewhere to think. We? You wanted the truth about what I am? Congratulations. Now you're in it. Those shooters wanted us both dead. That makes us temporary allies. I don't even know you. You know I built an empire on blood money and broken contracts. You know your father was collateral damage. You know someone's using both of us as pieces in a game we don't understand yet. He met her eyes. And you know that right now, I'm the only reason you're still breathing. So yes, we. Lila stared at him for a long moment, then nodded, once. Sharp. They walked to the hotel. It was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Damien paid cash. The clerk didn't even look up. The room was exactly what the price suggested. Stained carpet, bed that sagged in the middle, bathroom with questionable plumbing. Damien locked the door, checked the window, then sat on the edge of the bed and finally let himself process. Victor was dead. The merger was poisoned. Someone had been watching him for weeks, and the Korsakovs would want answers he didn't have. Lila stood by the window, arms crossed, still shaking slightly. What do we do? We find out who's pulling strings. Damien pulled out his phone, opened the encrypted app, sent a message to Gerald Ashford. Need you to run every name on that contract. Find out who benefits if I go down. The response came fast. Already did. After you left, I got suspicious. Ran background checks. One of the shell companies on page 4 is registered to a holding group that traces back to Marcus Chen's wife's cousin. Marcus set you up. Damien's hand tightened on the phone. Marcus. His CFO. The man who'd been with him for 5 years. Who knew every account, every operation, every vulnerability? Another message from Gerald. More. The Korsakovs didn't know. They're about to find out. When they do, they'll assume you were in on it. You have maybe 6 hours before they decide you're the liability. Perfect. Not only was he betrayed, but he was about to take the blame for someone else's treachery. What is it? Lila asked. Damien looked up at her. This woman whose father he'd destroyed without even knowing his name. This stranger who'd been manipulated into warning him. This accidental accomplice in a war she didn't start. Someone inside my organization sold me out, he said, and now I have to decide whether to run or fight. What's the smart play? Running, disappear, fake my death, start over somewhere the Korsakovs can't find me. And the other option? Damien smiled. It was a cold expression. Burn it all down, find Marcus, find whoever's behind this, make them regret using me as a pawn. That sounds like suicide. Probably. Lila was quiet for a moment. Then she walked over and sat on the other side of the bed, keeping distance between them but sharing the space. My father, she said quietly, used to say that running from a problem just means it catches you tired. He wasn't a smart man, drank too much, trusted too easy. But he was right about that. Damien looked at her, really looked, the smeared makeup, the server's uniform, the hands that shook because they'd never held a gun or run from bullets before tonight. She had every reason to want him dead, every reason to walk away. Why are you still here? He asked. Because whoever killed your friend also tried to kill me, and because I want to know why my father's name is in the middle of this. She met his eyes. And maybe because you're the first person who's told me the truth about anything in a very long time. Damien's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Damien Varelli, a voice said, calm, professional, unaccented. You've had an eventful evening. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you build your empire, watching you cut corners, watching you make enemies, and now watching you fall. Marcus sent you. A pause. Then, Marcus is a tool, like you were, like Miss Mercer was. The difference is, you're smart enough to see the board now. What do you want? I want you to understand something. That merger, it was never going to happen. Page 4 was always going to bury you, but I gave you a chance, through Miss Mercer, to walk away. You didn't take it. You investigated. You went to her apartment. You brought her into this, so now the parameters have changed. Get to the point. The Korsakovs think you betrayed them. Marcus is feeding them evidence that you've been skimming. They're coming for you, and when they find you, they won't ask questions. They'll just make an example. Damien's jaw clenched. And you're telling me this because? Because I want you to run. I want you scared. I want you desperate. And then, when you have nowhere left to go, I want you to do exactly what I say. Who are you? The voice laughed, soft and terrible. I'm the person who owns you now. Check your email, Damien. You'll see. The call ended. Damien opened his email. New message, no subject, just an attachment. He clicked it. Video file, security footage. It showed him 2 years ago in a warehouse. Across from him, a man on his knees. Damien couldn't hear the audio, but he remembered the conversation. The man had stolen from him, thought he could hide, thought Damien wouldn't find out. In the video, Damien raised a gun. The man begged, and Damien pulled the trigger. He'd forgotten about that night, buried it with 100 other necessary evils. But here it was, crisp and damning. Murder, premeditated, on camera. They have everything, Damien said quietly. Lila looked at the screen, looked away. Is that? Yes. Did he deserve it? Damien laughed, sharp and bitter. Does it matter? I killed him. That's what matters. And now someone has proof. His phone buzzed again. Text message. Run, Damien. Run far. I'll be in touch. Damien stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city that he'd conquered and that was now hunting him. Somewhere out there, Marcus was alive. The Korsakovs were sharpening knives, and a phantom voice was pulling strings. Behind him, Lila spoke. So what do we do? Damien turned, looked at this woman who'd walked into his life with 5 words and pulled the pin on a grenade neither of them could put back. We survived tonight, he said, and tomorrow we start breaking things. Outside, somewhere in the dark, a phone rang. Orders were given, guns were loaded, and the city held its breath waiting for the war to start. The hotel room smelled like old cigarettes and broken promises. Damien stood at the window, watching the street below through a gap in the stained curtain. 3 in the morning. The city never slept, but it slowed down, caught its breath between the night's violence and the morning's commerce. A taxi crawled past. A drunk stumbled along the sidewalk. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that 2 floors above them, an empire was bleeding out. Lila sat on the edge of the bed, phone in her hands, scrolling through the encrypted emails again. Looking for something she'd missed, some clue buried in the instructions that had led her here. Find anything? Damien asked without turning. No. Her voice was flat, exhausted. It's all generic. Deliver the message. Wait for contact. Nothing about who or why. They wouldn't leave breadcrumbs. Damien let the curtain fall back. Whoever this is, they're professional. Military? Intelligence? Corporate espionage? Does it matter? It matters because different enemies have different weaknesses. He moved to the small table where he'd spread out everything from his pockets. Phone, wallet, keys, the ceramic blade from his belt, small enough to miss in a pat-down, sharp enough to open a throat. Military thinks in terms of objectives and extraction. Intelligence plays long games. Corporate just wants market advantage. And criminals? Damien looked at her. Criminals want you dead or useful. Nothing in between. Lila set down her phone, rubbed her eyes. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind the crash. Damien recognized it. The shakes, the nausea, the way your body finally processed what your mind had been too busy to acknowledge. She'd seen a man die tonight, had bullets punched through walls close enough to feel the displacement, had her entire understanding of safety shattered. You should eat something, he said. I'm not hungry. Doesn't matter, your blood sugar's crashing. You'll be useless in an hour. She laughed, bitter. Useless? I'm already useless. I'm a waitress who got played. I don't know how to do this. She gestured vaguely at the room, at him, at the situation. Damien pulled a protein bar from his jacket pocket, tossed it to her. You delivered a message that saved my life. You ran when the shooting started instead of freezing. You're still here instead of screaming for police. That's not useless. Lila caught the bar, but didn't open it. Your friend died because of me. Victor died because someone ambushed us. That's on them, not you. He wouldn't have been there if I hadn't. Stop! Damien's voice went hard. Victor knew the risks. He chose this life. Hell, he loved it. Gave him purpose after the war chewed him up and spit him out. You want to honor him? Stay sharp. Stay useful. Don't waste energy on guilt that won't change anything. Lila stared at him. You're cold. I'm realistic. Guilt's a luxury. Right now we need to figure out who's hunting us and why. She opened the protein bar. Took a bite. Chewed mechanically. You said Marcus betrayed you. Your CFO. According to my lawyer, yes. So we find Marcus. Make him talk. We? Damien raised an eyebrow. You said we're temporary allies. Temporary? You're not equipped for interrogation. Then what am I supposed to do? Sit here and wait to get killed? Damien studied her. The defiance in her eyes. The way her hands had stopped shaking. People broke in different ways under pressure. Some collapsed. Some ran. Some got angry. Lila was getting angry, and anger was useful if you could aim it. You want to help? He asked. Yes. Then tell me everything about your father. Every detail. How he died. Who he knew. What jobs he worked before he worked for me. Lila frowned. Why does that matter? Because someone used his death to manipulate you. That means they knew about him, knew the connection would motivate you. That's not random. That's research. She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Robert Mercer. He was a contractor. Mostly commercial buildings, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, small crews. He wasn't a big player, just trying to make a living. When did he work for my company? 2019. He got hired to do retrofit work on a warehouse complex. Your company, Apex Holdings, was listed as the general contractor. He was a sub. The job took 3 months. When it finished, Apex filed for bankruptcy protection. He never got paid. $140,000. Damien's memory spun back. Apex Holdings. One of a dozen shells he'd used to move money and assets off the books. The warehouse complex had been a front for storage. Weapons, mostly, coming in from the Korsakovs before they were partners. When the feds started sniffing around, Damien had folded the company, burned the records, left the creditors holding nothing. Standard operating procedure. Collateral damage. He sued? Damien asked. Tried. Couldn't afford a real lawyer. The bankruptcy court gave him nothing. He'd borrowed to cover payroll, thinking he'd get paid. When he didn't, her voice caught. He lost his house, his crew, everything. Started drinking, stopped eating. I came home one day and found him in the garage. He'd run a hose from the exhaust pipe. Damien said nothing. What was there to say? I'm sorry your father killed himself because I needed to cover my tracks? I was 21, Lila continued, in college. Had to drop out to work. Spent the next 7 years waiting tables and cleaning houses trying to pay off his debts. She looked at Damien. So yeah, when someone emailed me and said you were the reason my father was dead, I believed them. And when they offered me a chance to hurt you, I took it. Except you didn't hurt me, you warned me. Because the message didn't make sense. Page 4 will destroy you. That's not hurting someone. That's helping them. So I started wondering if maybe I was being used for something else. Smart. Not smart enough. I still walked right into whatever this is. Damien's phone buzzed. Text from Gerald. Korsakov's just put out a bounty. $500,000 for you, dead or alive. Every crew in the city will be hunting by sunrise. You need to disappear. Now. He showed Lila the message. $500,000, she said quietly. Cheaper than letting me talk. Where can we go? Damien thought fast. The Korsakovs had reach, docks, trucks, muscle in every neighborhood. His own people would turn on him for that kind of money. Hotels were out. Friends were liabilities. He needed somewhere off the grid, somewhere no one would think to look. I have a place, he said. Safe house. Only 3 people knew about it. Me, Victor, and my lawyer. Victor's dead. Which means it's down to 2. He grabbed his jacket. Get your things. I don't have things. Everything was in the apartment. Then just get yourself. We're leaving. They took the stairs down, avoiding the elevator. The lobby was empty except for the clerk, who was asleep behind bulletproof glass. Damien led Lila out the side exit into an alley. The cold hit immediately. October in the northeast, wet and biting. Lila shivered in her thin server's uniform. Damien shrugged out of his jacket, handed it to her. "I'm fine," she said. "You're freezing. Take it." She did. It swallowed her frame, sleeves hanging past her hands. They walked quickly, staying in shadows, avoiding main streets. Damien's car was gone, probably already tagged by the Korsakovs. They needed different transportation. 2 blocks over, he found what he needed. A Honda Civic, 15 years old, parked on a side street. He pulled out a slim tool from his pocket, worked the lock. 30 seconds later, they were inside. Another minute, and the engine turned over. "You just stole a car," Lila said. "Borrowed. That's still a crime." Damien pulled into traffic. "You want to debate ethics, or you want to live through the night?" She was quiet. They drove north out of the city center, past the gentrified neighborhoods into the industrial zones, warehouses and rail yards, graffiti-tagged walls and chain-link fences. The safe house was buried deep in a commercial park that had been slated for development before the recession killed the funding. Now it was just empty lots and abandoned buildings. Damien pulled behind a 3-story structure that looked condemned. Boarded windows, crumbling brick. A for lease sign so faded you could barely read it. "This is your safe house?" Lila asked. "This is cover." He got out, led her to a side door hidden behind a dumpster, unlocked it with a key that had been taped under the dumpster's rim. Inside was darkness and the smell of dust. Damien pulled out his phone, used the flashlight. They moved through what had once been a factory floor, empty space, support columns, old machinery rusting in corners. At the back was a freight elevator. He pulled the gate open, and they descended 1 level. The basement was different. Concrete walls, LED lights on motion sensors, a reinforced door with a biometric lock. Damien pressed his thumb to the scanner. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Inside was a studio apartment that didn't match the derelict building above. Clean, climate-controlled. A bed, a kitchenette, a bathroom. Weapons cabinet on one wall, communications gear on another. 6 months of supplies in sealed containers. "You built a bunker," Lila said. "I built insurance." Damien locked the door behind them. "No one gets in without my thumbprint or Gerald's. No windows, air filtration system. If we need to wait out a siege, we can last 3 months." Lila walked to the center of the room, turning slowly, taking it in. "How long have you had this?" 5 years. Never needed it until tonight." "You always knew someone would come for you." "In my line of work, it's not paranoia. It's planning." He moved to the weapons cabinet, unlocked it. Inside were handguns, rifles, ammunition, body armor. "You know how to shoot?" "No." "Then you're learning." He pulled out a Glock 19, checked the magazine, handed it to her grip first. She took it like it might explode. "I don't want this." "Doesn't matter what you want. Marcus knows I had help getting out of that restaurant. He'll assume it was you. That makes you a target." Damien pulled a second gun for himself. "You can be a target who shoots back, or a target who dies. Your choice." Lila looked at the weapon in her hands. Black polymer and cold steel. "I thought you said I was useless." "I said you'd be useless if you didn't eat. Now you've eaten. Now you're getting armed. Soon you'll be dangerous." He ejected the magazine from his own weapon, checked the rounds, slapped it back in. "First rule, assume it's always loaded. Second rule, never point it at anything you don't want dead. Third rule, if you pull the trigger, don't stop until the threat stops moving." "That's it? That's gun training?" "That's survival training. The rest is mechanics." He showed her how to grip it, how to aim, how to manage recoil. His hands positioned hers, adjusting her stance. She smelled like sweat and fear and the perfume she'd worn to the restaurant, something floral that was completely wrong for this moment. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. Damien stepped back. "Because you got dragged into a war you didn't start. Because you're the only person in this mess who hasn't tried to kill me yet. And because—" He stopped. "Because what?" "Because your father deserved better than what I gave him. And maybe helping you is the closest I'll get to making that right." Lila stared at him. "You feel guilty." "I feel practical. Guilt's a luxury, remember?" "You keep saying that. I'm starting to think you're trying to convince yourself." Damien's jaw tightened. "Set the gun on the table. We need to talk strategy." She did. They sat across from each other in the small space, the weapons between them like a barrier neither wanted to acknowledge. Marcus betrayed you, Lila said, but someone's pulling his strings. The person who called you. The one with the video. Agreed. So we find out who that is. How? They're using encrypted communications, burner phones. They've had weeks to set this up. But they made a mistake, Lila said. They used my father's death to manipulate me. That's specific, personal. Whoever this is, they knew Robert Mercer, knew how he died, knew I'd want revenge. Damien leaned forward. You're right. That's not public record. Your father's suicide. Was it investigated? Not really. Police came, ruled it a suicide, closed the case. Who else knew the details? Lila thought. Me? My mother? But she left years before. Some of his crew, maybe. His lawyer, the one who handled the bankruptcy case. What was the lawyer's name? I don't remember. It was 7 years ago. Some firm downtown. Wait. She pulled out her phone, started searching. I might have kept paperwork. While she searched, Damien's mind worked. Someone who knew about Robert Mercer's case, who had access to bankruptcy records, who could connect the dots from a dead contractor to his daughter to Damien's shell company. That was either incredible research or inside knowledge. Found it, Lila said. The lawyer was from Ashford and Associates. Damien's blood went cold. Say that again? Ashford and Associates. Why? Gerald Ashford is my lawyer, has been for 15 years. They stared at each other. That's a coincidence, Lila said. I don't believe in coincidences. But he's been helping you. He warned you about Marcus. Or he's playing both sides, feeding me information to keep me moving in the direction he wants. Damien stood, paced. Gerald knew about the merger, knew about the shell companies, knew Victor and I would investigate when I got spooked. He probably knew we'd go to your apartment. Why would he want you dead? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he wants me desperate, dependent. Maybe the end game isn't killing me. It's controlling me. Damien's phone buzzed. Text from Gerald. Need to talk in person. I have information about who's behind this. Meet me at the office in 1 hour. Come alone. Damien showed Lila the message. It's a trap, she said immediately. Probably. So you're not going. I didn't say that. Are you insane? He just set you up. Maybe. Or maybe he's genuine and someone else used his firm's records to research your father. Damien looked at the message again. Either way, he knows something, and right now information is the only leverage we have. Then let me go with you. He said, come alone. And you trust him? No. But I trust myself to handle whatever he's planning. Damien grabbed a shoulder holster from the weapons cabinet, strapped it on, slid the Glock into place. You stay here. Door stays locked. If I'm not back in 3 hours, you run. There's cash in the supply locker. IDs, passports. Get out of the city and don't look back. I'm not just going to sit here. Yes, you are. Because if this goes wrong, someone needs to survive to finish it. And right now, you're the only person who knows the whole story. Lila stood, moved close to him. What if you die? Then you send everything to the FBI. The emails, the video, all of it. Burn Marcus, burn the Korsakovs, burn Gerald if he's dirty, salt the earth. That won't bring you back. No, but it'll make sure they don't win. He moved toward the door. Lila grabbed his arm. Damien, don't go. He looked down at her hand on his sleeve. Small fingers, calloused from years of work. She'd spent 7 years cleaning up her father's mess, 7 years surviving, and now she was asking him not to walk into danger because somewhere in the last 6 hours, they'd stopped being strangers and become something else. Not friends. Not yet. But not enemies anymore either. I have to, he said quietly. This is my world, my rules. If I don't face it, it'll swallow both of us. He pulled free, walked out. The door locked behind him with a sound like finality. The drive back into the city felt longer than it was. Dawn was breaking, gray light leaking into the sky, turning the world the color of old concrete. Early commuters filled the roads, people heading to jobs they hated but needed. Normal lives, safe lives. Damien had never wanted that. Even as a kid, watching his father drink away every paycheck, he'd known he wouldn't end up ordinary. He'd either rise above it or burn out trying. No middle ground. Turned out he'd been right. Gerald's office was downtown, 35th floor of a glass tower that reflected the sunrise like a mirror. Damien parked 3 blocks away, walked the rest. Took the stairs instead of the elevator, harder to trap someone in a stairwell than a box. By the time he reached the 35th floor, his legs burned and his breathing was controlled but elevated. He pushed through the door into the reception area. Empty. Not unusual for this hour, but wrong somehow. The lights were on, coffee machine running, but no receptionist, no associates hustling to look busy. "Gerald?" Damien called. No answer. He moved deeper into the office, past cubicles and conference rooms. Gerald's personal office was at the end of the hall, corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the harbor. The door was open. Damien drew his weapon, approached slow, checked the angles. Gerald sat behind his desk, hands folded, face calm. A gun lay on the desk in front of him, within reach, but not held. "You came," Gerald said. "You asked." "I said alone." "I am alone." "Are you?" Gerald's eyes flicked to something behind Damien. Damien spun. Marcus Chen stepped out from a conference room holding a pistol aimed at Damien's chest. "Hey, boss," Marcus said. "We need to talk." Damien's mind calculated. Distance to Marcus, 15 feet. Gerald, 10 feet behind the desk. 2 armed opponents, his own weapon raised but not aimed. If he went for Marcus, Gerald would shoot him in the back. If he turned for Gerald, Marcus would put 3 rounds in his spine. No good options. "Put it down, Damien," Gerald said calmly. "We're not here to kill you. Just set me up for the Korsakovs to kill." That was unfortunate. Marcus got overeager. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You said to make it look real, so I made it look real." "By putting my name on a federal indictment?" Damien kept his weapon up, tracking between them. "That's not theater. That's execution." "And yet you're still alive," Gerald said, "which suggests you're harder to kill than we anticipated. Admirable, really." "What's the play here, Gerald? You orchestrate this whole mess, and for what? Money? The Korsakovs paying you?" "The Korsakovs are tools. Violent, useful tools. No, Damien, this isn't about them." "Then what?" Gerald stood, moved to the window, looked out at the city waking up below. "For 15 years, I've watched you build an empire on shortcuts and brutality. I've cleaned up your messes, made your problems disappear, turned blood money into legitimate assets, and I've done it brilliantly. And I've paid you brilliantly. You've paid me a fraction of what I've earned you. Every shell company, every offshore account, every piece of property laundered through my firm, I built that infrastructure. Me. You're just the face." Damien's grip tightened on his weapon. "So this is about getting paid?" "This is about getting what I'm owed, which is everything." Gerald turned. "The merger was my design. The shell companies on page 4, I chose them specifically. Old enough to be scrutinized, dirty enough to link to RICO predicates. If you'd signed, the feds would have come for you within a week. You'd go to prison, your assets would be seized, and I, as your attorney of record, would manage the liquidation. Into your own accounts. Into accounts that reflect my contribution. 30% seemed fair. 30% of $1 billion. Consider it back pay." Damien laughed, cold and sharp. "You really think the Korsakovs would just let you walk away with their money? The Korsakovs will be dead within 6 months. Marcus has been feeding them bad intelligence for years. When they move on what they think are my weak points, they'll find federal agents waiting. RICO, racketeering, murder conspiracy. They'll die in prison." Marcus shifted his weight. "We've been planning this for 3 years, Damien. Every move you've made, we've been 2 steps ahead." "Except the waitress. She wasn't part of your plan," Gerald smiled. "Oh, but she was. Lila Mercer was perfect. Motivated by revenge, desperate for money, easy to manipulate. We fed her the emails, gave her just enough truth to make her dangerous. Sent her to warn you because we knew you'd investigate. Knew you'd find Marcus's name in the documents. Knew you'd panic and run." "And the shooters at her apartment?" "That was Marcus freelancing. I told him to wait, but he got nervous." Marcus's face flushed. "She was a loose end. She was bait," Gerald snapped. "And you nearly ruined everything by trying to clean her up too early." Damien watched them. The fractures in their partnership. Marcus was a thug pretending to be an executive. Gerald was a strategist who thought he was untouchable, and both of them had made the same mistake. They thought Damien was predictable. "You missed something," Damien said. "Did we?" Gerald raised an eyebrow. "You planned for me to run, to panic, to make mistakes, but I didn't run alone. Lila's with me, and she knows everything." "Knows what? That you ruined her father, that you're a criminal? That won't help her, or you. She knows about you, your firm, the connection to her father's bankruptcy case. When the feds come looking, that's a thread they'll pull." Gerald's smile faded slightly. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Because right now, she's sitting in a safe house you don't know about, writing down every detail, every name, every move you've made. If I don't walk out of here, she sends it all to the FBI." Marcus took a step forward. "He's lying. Kill him." "Wait," Gerald said. "He's a dead man anyway. The Korsakovs are offering $500,000 for him. We're offering survival." Gerald looked at Damien. "Lower your weapon. Sit down. Let's talk like professionals." "We're past talking." "Are we?" "Because from where I stand, you have two options. Work with us, accept a controlled exit from your empire, and live. Or fight, die badly, and watch everyone you care about burn with you." "I don't care about anyone." "Don't you? What about Victor?" "Oh, that's right. He's already dead." "What about Lila Mercer? Think she'll survive when the Korsakovs find out she helped you?" Damien's trigger finger tensed. One shot. He could take Gerald down before Marcus reacted, but then Marcus would shoot him, and Lila would be alone with half the underworld hunting her. Or he could lower his weapon. Play along. Buy time. He lowered his weapon, slowly. "Smart," Gerald said. "Now sit. We have details to discuss." Damien moved to a chair, kept his weapon in hand but not aimed. Marcus circled behind him, keeping his own pistol trained. "Here's how this works," Gerald began. "You sign a document transferring operational control of your holdings to a management trust. I administer the trust. You get a consulting fee, say $5 million annually, enough to live comfortably, but not enough to rebuild. And if I refuse, then Marcus kills you. We dump your body where the Korsakovs will find it, collect the bounty, and move forward without you. You'd still have Lila as a loose end. Lila Mercer is a grieving waitress with a conspiracy theory. No one will believe her, and if she becomes too loud, well, accidents happen." Damien's hands curled into fists. "You'd kill an innocent woman." "I'd eliminate a liability. There's a difference." "Not to her." Gerald leaned against his desk. "You're developing a conscience, Damien. How quaint. 7 years ago, you didn't care about Robert Mercer. He was just collateral damage. Why care about his daughter now?" "Because she saved my life." "And now you're returning the favor by getting her killed. Touching, really." Marcus laughed. "He's gone soft, Gerald. We should just end this." "Patience," Gerald said. "Damien, you have 60 seconds to decide. Sign or die. What's it going to be?" Damien looked at the window, dawn light filling the sky. Somewhere out there, Lila was waiting, trusting that he'd come back, trusting that for once in her life, someone wouldn't abandon her. He thought about Victor, bleeding out in an apartment Damien had led him to. He thought about Robert Mercer, hanging in a garage because a debt went unpaid. He thought about every shortcut, every corner cut, every person crushed under the wheels of his ambition. And he thought about the gun in his hand. "I have a counteroffer," Damien said. "Oh?" Gerald smiled. "This should be entertaining. You let me walk out of here. You call off the Korsakovs. You disappear. And I don't burn your entire operation to the ground." Marcus snorted. "With what leverage?" "With the fact that I've been recording this conversation." Damien tapped his watch. "Audio's been streaming to a secure server since I walked in. Every word, every confession. Gerald's RICO setup, your murder conspiracy. All of it." Gerald's face went pale. "You're bluffing," Marcus said, but his voice was uncertain. "Try me. Because if I don't walk out of here in 5 minutes, that recording goes to the FBI, the state attorney, and every news outlet in the city. Your 30% vanishes, your plans collapse, and you spend the next 20 years in federal prison wondering why you didn't just let me leave." Gerald stared at him, calculating, looking for the lie. Damien held his gaze, steady, unflinching. Show me the watch, Gerald said finally. Damien lifted his wrist. Standard smartwatch. Recording app active. Red light blinking. Marcus swore. Kill him anyway. Destroy the watch. It's already uploaded, you idiot, Gerald snapped. The moment he activated it, he looked at Damien. Who has access to the server? Someone who'll release it if I don't check in. Lila Mercer. Maybe someone else. You want to gamble? Silence stretched. Outside, the city hummed. Traffic and construction and the machinery of normal life grinding forward. Gerald set his gun on the desk, stepped back. Marcus, lower your weapon. But lower it, now. Marcus did, reluctantly. Damien stood, backed toward the door, kept his own weapon ready. This isn't over, Gerald said quietly. You just made an enemy you can't afford. I've had enemies my whole life. What's one more? The Korsakovs will still hunt you. Let them. I've survived worse than Russian mobsters. He reached the door, stepped into the hallway. Behind him, Marcus shouted, We can't just let him! The sound cut off as Damien slammed the door and ran. He hit the stairwell at full sprint, took the steps 4 at a time, jumping landings, one hand on the rail to keep from tumbling. Behind him, he heard the office door crash open, footsteps pounding. 35th floor. 30th. 25th. His lungs burned. His legs screamed. But he didn't slow. 20 floors, 15. The stairwell door below him burst open, security guards flooding in. 2, 3, 4. Damien didn't hesitate. He vaulted the railing, dropped 1 full floor, hit the landing hard enough to rattle his bones, and kept running. 10 floors. 5. The guards were closing. He could hear their radios, coordinating, cutting him off. Ground floor. Damien crashed through the exit into the lobby. Early morning crowd, suits and coffee cups. He shoved through, sending someone's latte flying, and burst out onto the street. Fresh air hit his face. He ran. Behind him, shouts, whistles. He cut through an alley, vaulted a fence, came out on a parallel street, kept moving. His car was 3 blocks away. Might as well be 3 miles. He couldn't go back for it. They'd be watching. New plan. He flagged a cab, threw himself in the back seat. Drive, he gasped. Where to? Just drive. I'll tell you when to stop. The cab pulled out. Damien looked back, saw security guards spilling onto the street, scanning the crowd. But the cab was already moving, blending into traffic. He sagged against the seat, breathing hard, heart hammering. His watch buzzed. Text from an unknown number. That was impressive, but you just made everything worse. Gee. Damien deleted the message, pulled up his encrypted app, sent a message to the safe house burner phone he'd left with Lila. Compromised. Stay put. Don't trust anyone. No response. He tried again. Lila. Answer. Nothing. Damien's chest tightened. Change of plans. Take me to... He gave the address of the industrial park. That's across town, the driver said. I'll pay double. Just move. 20 minutes that felt like hours. Damien watched the rearview mirror, checked his phone every 30 seconds. No messages. No calls. They reached the industrial park. Damien threw cash at the driver and ran. The abandoned building, the hidden door, the freight elevator. His hands shook as he pressed his thumb to the biometric lock. The door opened. The safe house was empty. Lila was gone. The weapons cabinet was open. 1 gun missing, the Glock he'd given her. The supply locker had been accessed. Cash gone. One of the fake IDs missing. On the table, a note in hurried handwriting. They called. Said they have evidence that will clear my father's name. Said I just have to come meet them. I'm sorry. I have to know the truth. Damien crumpled the note in his fist. She'd walked into a trap. Of course she had. They dangled the one thing she wanted more than safety, and she'd taken the bait. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. He answered. Damien Varelli, a voice said, the same calm, professional tone from before. I believe we have something of yours. If you hurt her, Sarah. Hurt her? No, we need her. Just like we need you. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to come to the address I'm about to send you. You're going to come alone, unarmed, and you're going to do exactly what we say. And if you're very, very good, maybe you both get to live. Who are you? You'll find out soon enough. Check your phone. The call ended. A text arrived. An address. Waterfront. Warehouse District. Damien stared at it. Every instinct screamed trap. Suicide. They'd have men waiting. They'd have weapons. He'd be walking into his own execution. But Lila was there. And for reasons he couldn't fully explain, that mattered more than survival. He grabbed a spare weapon from the cabinet, loaded it, checked the action, slid it into his belt at the small of his back where a quick pat-down wouldn't find it. Then he walked out of the safe house and into what was almost certainly going to be the last hour of his life. The point of no return wasn't a decision. It was a door closing behind him with a sound like thunder, and on the other side there was only war. The waterfront smelled like diesel and dead fish. Damien stood at the edge of the pier, watching fog roll off the harbor in gray sheets that turned the world into ghosts and shadows. 3 in the afternoon, but it felt like dusk, the kind of light that made everything look already dead. The warehouse was 100 yards ahead, 4 stories of rusted, corrugated metal and broken windows. Cargo containers stacked like a maze around the perimeter. Too many places to hide. Too many angles of attack. Walking in there was the kind of mistake you didn't come back from. He walked anyway. The gun at his back pressed cold against his spine. They'd search him. Find it eventually. But maybe he'd get a chance to use it first. Maybe was a thin word to hang your life on, but it was all he had. The warehouse's main door hung open. Darkness inside. Damien paused at the threshold, letting his eyes adjust. Concrete floor, support beams. Empty space that swallowed sound and gave back nothing. His footsteps echoed. "Stop there." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speakers hidden in the rafters. Damien froze. "Hands where I can see them." He raised his hands, slowly. Lights blazed on, industrial floods that turned the warehouse white and sterile. Damien squinted against the glare. Shapes resolved. Men with rifles at elevated positions. 8, maybe 10. Professional stance, military bearing, not street thugs, not Korsakov's usual muscle. In the center of the warehouse floor, a figure stepped into the light. Not Gerald. Not Marcus. A woman. Late 50s. Gray hair pulled back severe, expensive suit that looked wrong in a place like this. She carried herself like someone used to boardrooms and power. Her face was sharp, intelligent, completely unfamiliar. "Damien Varelli," she said. "You're exactly what I expected, and somehow less. Where's Lila?" The woman smiled, gestured. From behind a cargo container, 2 men dragged Lila forward. She was alive. That was something. But her hands were zip-tied. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen half shut. She saw Damien and something flashed across her expression. Relief? Horror? Both? "Let her go," Damien said. "Eventually. After we're done." The woman circled him like a shark. "My name is Catherine Volkov. Does that mean anything to you?" Damien's mind raced. Volkov. Russian name but American accent. No connection to the Korsakovs that he knew. No business dealings. No past grievances. Should it? Perhaps not. I've stayed out of the light for a long time. Prefer it that way. Less messy. She stopped in front of him. "But you killed my son." "So here we are." Damien's breath caught. "Your son. Nikolai Volkov, 7 years ago. You shot him in a warehouse very much like this one. Over what, $30,000? A rounding error in your empire." The memory surfaced. The man on his knees, begging. Damien had been younger then, angrier, still proving himself, still showing the world he wasn't someone to steal from. He'd pulled the trigger because mercy looked like weakness, and weakness got you killed. "He was a thief," Damien said. "He was 23 years old." Catherine's voice didn't rise, didn't waver. That made it worse. "He made a mistake. He would have paid it back. But you didn't give him that chance." "That's what this is? Revenge?" "Revenge is emotional. This is accounting. 7 years ago, you took my son. Today, I take everything you've built. Fair trade." Damien glanced at Lila. She was shaking her head, trying to tell him something, but the guards had her locked down tight. "You orchestrated all of this," Damien said, turning back to Catherine. "The merger, the setup, using Lila." "Oh, not just Lila. I orchestrated everything. Every piece on the board, every move you've made. Catherine walked to a table that had been set up in the center of the warehouse. Laptop open, documents spread across the surface. Gerald Ashford has been on my payroll for 3 years, Marcus Chen for 5. Even the Korsakovs, those violent idiots, have been dancing to music I composed. Why? If you wanted me dead, you could have hired someone years ago. Death is too quick, too clean. I wanted you to suffer. I wanted you to watch everything you built collapse. I wanted you to feel what my son felt in those last moments, helpless, terrified, knowing there's no way out. She picked up a document. This is the contract you almost signed. Page 4 would have destroyed you legally. But that was just the beginning. If you'd signed, the Korsakovs would have turned on you within a week. Gerald would have seized your assets. Marcus would have testified against you. You'd die in prison, broke and forgotten. But I didn't sign. No, because Lila warned you, and that, Catherine smiled, that was the beautiful part. You see, I knew you'd investigate. Knew you'd find Marcus's betrayal. Knew you'd panic and make mistakes. The shooting at her apartment? Marcus freelancing? Yes. But it served my purpose. Pushed you together. Made you trust her. Damien looked at Lila again. She was crying now, silent tears cutting tracks through the dirt on her face. Lila didn't know, he said quietly. Of course not. She was perfect because she was genuine. Real grief, real rage. When I approached her, anonymously, carefully, she believed every word. Her father, your shell company, the injustice of it all. She wanted to hurt you, and I gave her the chance. You used her father's death. I created her father's death. Catherine's voice went cold. Robert Mercer was drinking himself into an early grave anyway. I just accelerated the timeline. Had one of my people plant the idea. The hose, the garage. He was so far gone he barely needed the suggestion. Lila made a sound, raw and broken. The guards held her tighter. Damien's hands curled into fists. You murdered him. I gave a drunk man a way out. What he did with it was his choice. Catherine set down the document, picked up another. But his death served a purpose. It gave Lila motivation, made her the perfect delivery system for my warning. She saved your life, Damien, and in doing so, she sealed your fate. How? Because now you care about her. I can see it. The way you looked at her when you walked in. The way you've been protecting her. You've developed that most fatal of weaknesses, empathy. And empathy is a lever I can pull. Catherine nodded to one of the guards. He stepped forward with a briefcase, set it on the table, opened it. Inside was a phone, a gun, and a single sheet of paper. Here's how this ends, Catherine said. You have 2 choices. Choice 1, you pick up that gun and shoot Lila Mercer in the head. Prove to me you're still the man who killed my son, still ruthless, still willing to sacrifice anything to survive. If you do that, I let you walk. Not free. You'll still have the Korsakovs hunting you, still have federal investigations circling, but you'll be alive. Damien stared at the gun. And choice 2? You refuse, you try to be noble, and my men kill you both, slowly, and I watch. Silence filled the warehouse. Even the guards seemed to hold their breath. Lila's voice cracked through the quiet. Don't. Damien looked at her. Don't you dare, she said, louder now. I'm not dying for you. I'm not. Her voice broke. My father died because of you. Victor died because of you. Don't make me another name on your list. Touching, Catherine said, but irrelevant. Damien, you have 60 seconds. Choose. Damien walked to the table, looked down at the gun. Standard 9mm, loaded, safety off, ready to kill. He picked it up. The weight was familiar, comfortable. He'd held guns like this 1,000 times, pointed them at people who'd wronged him, people who'd stolen from him, people who were just in the way. He turned to face Lila. She stopped struggling, met his eyes. And in that moment, he saw everything she'd been through. 7 years of grief, 7 years of debt and exhaustion and rage. All because he'd folded a shell company to save himself and never thought about the contractors left holding worthless paper. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Don't apologize. Just don't do it. Your father deserved better. So do I. So do you. Damien raised the gun, aimed at her head. Lila closed her eyes. The guards tensed. Catherine leaned forward, eager, and Damien spun. The gun tracked to Catherine. His finger found the trigger. One shot, center mass. The bullet punched through her chest before anyone could react. Catherine's eyes went wide. Shocked. She staggered back. Blood bloomed across her expensive suit. She looked down at the wound like she couldn't understand how it got there. Then she laughed. It was a wet sound. Bubbling. Wrong. "Bulletproof vest," she gasped. "Did you really think I wouldn't prepare?" The guards opened fire. Damien dove behind the table as bullets tore through the air where he'd been standing. Wood exploded. Metal sparked. He rolled, came up firing blind, 3 shots toward the nearest elevated position. One of the guards went down screaming. Return fire intensified. Damien scrambled behind a cargo container. Rounds punched through the thin metal like paper. He was outgunned, outmanned, out of time. Lila was shouting something. He couldn't hear over the gunfire. He leaned out, fired twice more. Another guard dropped. But there were still 6, 7, too many. A grenade bounced across the floor toward him. Damien ran. The explosion lifted him off his feet, slammed him into a support beam. His ears rang. Blood ran from somewhere. He couldn't tell where. Everything was smoke and noise and the taste of copper. He tried to stand. Fell. Tried again. Footsteps approaching. Through the smoke, Catherine emerged. Still alive, still standing. The vest had saved her, but she was hurt. Moving slow, one hand pressed to her ribs. "You stupid," she coughed blood. "You really thought violence was the answer?" Damien's gun was gone, lost in the explosion. He felt at his back. The spare weapon, still there. He drew it with hands that didn't quite work right. Catherine saw. Raised her own pistol. They stood 10 feet apart. Both armed, both dying. "We can both shoot," Catherine said. "Both die. Or you can lower that weapon and I'll make it quick." "Where's Lila?" "Does it matter? You're finished, Damien. Even if you kill me, my people will hunt you. The Korsakovs will hunt you. The feds will hunt you. There's nowhere left to run. Then I've got nothing to lose." He fired. So did she. 2 shots. Simultaneous. Catherine's bullet grazed his shoulder. Damien's caught her in the throat. She went down hard, clutching her neck, blood pulsing between her fingers. Her mouth worked, but no sound came out, just wet gasping. Her eyes found his, angry, disbelieving, then empty. Damien sagged against the container. His shoulder screamed, his head pounded. But he was alive. For now. He pushed off, stumbled through the smoke. "Lila!" No answer. The guards were regrouping. He could hear them, coordinating. They'd lost their employer, but they were professionals. They'd finished the job. He found Lila behind a stack of crates. The 2 guards who'd been holding her were down, one with a bullet in his leg, the other unconscious. Lila stood over them with a pistol in her zip-tied hands. The guard's pistol. She'd taken it somehow during the chaos. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. "You're alive," Damien said. "So are you." She looked at the bodies, at the blood on her hands. "I shot him. He was coming for you and I..." "You did good. I killed someone. You survived. That's what matters." Damien pulled out his knife, cut the zip ties. Her hands fell free. She dropped the gun like it burned. Footsteps closing in. "We have to move," Damien said. They ran deeper into the warehouse, through storage areas and machinery rooms. The building was a maze. Every turn looked the same. Behind them, shouts. Orders being given. The guards were hunting systematic, professional. Damien's shoulder throbbed. Blood soaked through his shirt. He was slowing down, leaving a trail. They hit a dead end. Concrete wall. No doors. No windows. "Shit!" Lila gasped. Damien looked around. A ladder bolted to the wall, leading up to a catwalk, then to the roof. "Up," he said. They climbed. Damien went first. Every rung sent pain shooting through his shoulder. Halfway up, his vision grayed. He almost fell. Lila caught him. "Keep moving." They reached the catwalk, crossed to a roof access hatch. Damien shouldered it open and they spilled out onto the roof. Cold air hit like a slap. The fog was thicker up here. They could barely see 20 feet. The harbor spread out somewhere below, invisible. "Now what?" Lila asked. Damien looked around. The roof was flat. No cover. No exits except the way they'd come. And below he could hear the guards climbing the ladder. They were trapped. There, Lila pointed. The next building over. Maybe 15 feet away. A gap between rooftops. Below it, 4 stories to concrete death. You can't be serious, Damien said. You have a better idea? The hatch behind them rattled. Someone was coming through. Damien looked at the gap, at Lila, at the hatch. Can you make that jump? He asked. I don't know, can you? Probably not. Then we're even. She backed up, got a running start, and leaped. For a moment she was airborne, suspended. Then she hit the other roof hard, rolled, came up on her hands and knees. Come on, she shouted. The hatch burst open. A guard emerged, rifle up, saw Damien. Damien ran. 3 steps. 4. The edge rushed toward him. His wounded shoulder screamed. His legs felt like water. He jumped. The gap yawned below him. Empty air and gravity pulling hard. He wasn't going to make it. His hands hit the far edge. Fingers scrabbled for purchase. Found a rain gutter. It bent under his weight, started to tear free. Lila grabbed his wrist. I've got you. She pulled. He kicked against the wall. Together they hauled him up and over the edge. He collapsed on the roof, breathing like a drowning man. Behind them, the guard reached the edge, aimed. Damien rolled, pulled Lila flat. Bullets cracked overhead, then stopped. The guard wasn't jumping. Too far. He'd have to go back down, circle around. That bought them maybe 2 minutes. Can you run? Lila asked. Can I breathe? Damien countered. That's not an answer. He stood, swayed, steadied. Let's find out. They crossed the roof, found a fire escape on the far side, climbed down 3 stories, dropped the last 10 feet into an alley. Damien hit wrong. His ankle screamed. He went down. Lila helped him up. We need to get you to a hospital. Hospital means police. Police means questions. Questions mean prison. You're bleeding out. I've bled before. Not like this. She was right. The shoulder wound wasn't stopping. His shirt was soaked. Black spots danced at the edges of his vision. The safe house, he said. Medical supplies there. That's across the city. You won't make it. Then I die trying. Better than dying here. They stumbled out of the alley, hit a main street, traffic and people in normalcy that felt obscene after the warehouse. A bus was pulling away from a stop. Lila flagged it down, helped Damien aboard. The driver took one look at him. You need a hospital, man. Just drive, Lila said, shoving bills into the fare box. They collapsed into seats at the back. Other passengers stared. Damien tried to look less like he'd been shot. Failed. The bus lurched forward. Lila pulled off her jacket, wadded it against his shoulder, pressure to stop the bleeding. It hurt worse than getting shot. Damien gritted his teeth. Why'd you do it? Lila asked quietly. Do what? Turn the gun on her instead of me. Because shooting you would have been the easy choice, and I'm tired of easy choices getting people killed. You barely know me. I know you've had a shit hand dealt to you for 7 years. I know your father's dead because of me. I know you tried to warn me even when you thought I deserved to die. That's enough. Lila's eyes were wet. She killed him, Catherine. She made him. I know. And now she's dead. Yeah. Does that make it better? Damien looked out the window, the city sliding past. No, it just means she can't kill anyone else. They rode in silence for 10 blocks. Then Damien's phone buzzed. He pulled it out with his good hand. Text from an unknown number. Catherine Volkov is dead. Her organization will fracture. But her second-in-command knows where you're going. He knows about the safe house. He's waiting. G. Gerald still playing both sides. It's a trap, Damien said, showing Lila the message. Then where do we go? Damien's mind raced through options. Every safe house was compromised. Every ally was bought. Every move they made, someone was 3 steps ahead. His phone buzzed again. Different number. A video file. He opened it. Security footage, the safe house. Timestamp from 20 minutes ago. 3 men entering, armed, setting up positions, waiting. Then the camera feed cut to a different angle. Gerald Ashford sitting in Damien's chair, looking directly at the camera, speaking. Damien turned up the volume. Gerald's voice. Hello, Damien. If you're watching this, Catherine is dead and you're wondering where to run. The answer is nowhere. Her people have every exit covered. The Korsakovs have every bolt hole mapped. The feds have warrants ready the moment you surface. You're finished. But I'm feeling generous, so here's my final offer. Meet me. 1 hour. The address I'm about to send. Come alone. Bring Lila if you want. Honestly, I don't care anymore. We settle this face to face. No tricks. No ambushes. Just you, me, and the truth. Refuse. And I release the video of you killing Nikolai Volkov. Every news outlet. Every federal agency. You'll be the most wanted man in America by midnight. Your choice. The video ended. A text arrived with an address. Industrial Park. Different building from the safe house, but same area. He wants to meet, Damien said. It's another trap. Probably. But if we run, he releases that video. Every cop in the country will be looking for me. So we're just going to walk into it? You're not walking into anything. I am. You're getting off at the next stop, finding somewhere safe, disappearing. Lila grabbed his arm, the injured one. He flinched. She didn't let go. After everything we've been through, she said, "You really think I'm just going to walk away?" "You should. This isn't your fight. My father's dead because of your world. Victor's dead. Catherine's dead. I've got blood on my hands and nightmares for the rest of my life. It's absolutely my fight." Lila? "No, you don't get to make this decision for me. You want to face Gerald? Fine. But you're not doing it alone." Damien looked at her. This woman who'd started as a pawn, who'd been manipulated and lied to and nearly killed. Who should hate him, but was sitting here pressing a jacket to his wound to keep him breathing. "Why?" he asked. "Because someone should see how this ends, and because—" She paused. "Because you turned the gun away from me. Because you chose different. That means something." The bus slowed for a stop. "This is us," Damien said. They got off. The industrial park was 3 blocks away. Damien's legs barely worked. His vision kept tunneling, blood loss, shock, adrenaline crash. He was running on fumes. Lila supported him. They walked like 2 drunks holding each other up. The building Gerald had specified was smaller than the others. 2 stories. Old factory. Windows dark. The front door was unlocked. Inside was the smell of oil and rust. Machinery long silent. Conveyor belts frozen in place. Damien pulled his gun. Last rounds, maybe 3 bullets left. "Gerald," he called. His voice echoed. Lights came on. Not floods this time, just overhead bulbs, dim and flickering. Gerald stood in the center of the factory floor. No guards, no weapons visible. Just an old man in an expensive suit, looking tired. "You came," Gerald said. "You didn't leave much choice." "I suppose not." Gerald gestured to chairs that had been set up, 2 facing 1. "Sit, please. Let's have a civilized conversation." "Civilization's overrated," Damien said, but he sat anyway. His legs gave out more than he chose. Lila stood behind him, protective, her hand on his good shoulder. Gerald settled into the opposite chair, pulled out a glass and a bottle of scotch from somewhere, poured himself a drink. "Want some?" he offered. "I want answers." "Fair." Gerald sipped. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Start with why you betrayed me." "I didn't betray you, Damien. I saved you. Catherine Volkov would have destroyed you legally, federally. She had enough evidence to put you away for life. The video of you killing her son was just the crown jewel. She had financial records, witness statements, a paper trail going back 15 years, everything." "And you knew this how?" "Because she approached me 3 years ago, offered me a fortune to help her take you down. I said yes." Lila's hand tightened on Damien's shoulder. "But then," Gerald continued, "I started thinking. Catherine was obsessed, irrational. She didn't just want you destroyed, she wanted you to suffer. That kind of obsession is dangerous, unpredictable. So I played along, gathered information, and when the time was right, I fed you the warnings you needed to survive. You set up the merger to fail. I set up the merger to expose Marcus, to show you who was really disloyal, to give you a chance to clean house. By nearly getting me killed. You're still breathing, aren't you?" Gerald leaned forward. "Everything I've done, every manipulation, every warning has been to keep you alive long enough to destroy Catherine before she destroyed you. And it worked. She's dead. You're not. Damien's head pounded. Why? Why go through all this? Gerald was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his glass. Because 15 years ago, you were a stupid kid with more ambition than sense. You came to my office with a briefcase full of cash and a wild idea about building an empire. I should have turned you away. Should have called the police. But I saw something in you. Hunger, drive, the kind of ruthlessness that changes the world. So you helped me become a criminal. I helped you become powerful. And in doing so, I became powerful too. We built this together, Damien. Every shell company, every deal, every corner we cut. That's not just your empire, it's ours. And I'll be damned if I let some vengeful Russian widow burn it down. So what happens now? Lila asked. Her voice was hard, suspicious. Gerald looked at her. Really looked. Now? Now we rebuild. Catherine's people will scatter. The Korsakovs can be managed. I have leverage they don't know about. Marcus is already dead, by the way. Killed resisting arrest this morning. Very tragic. You killed him, Damien said. I had him killed. Important distinction. He was a loose end. Catherine was a loose end. Soon all the loose ends will be tied up, and you and I can go back to business. Just like that. Just like that. Damien laughed. It hurt his shoulder. You really think I'd trust you after all this? I think you don't have a choice. I know where all the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively. You need me, just like you always have. Or I could kill you right now. Gerald smiled. You could try. But I have insurance, files, videos, documents, all set to release if my heart stops beating. You kill me, and every federal agency in existence gets a roadmap to your empire. You'd be in custody before sunrise. Damien's hand tightened on his gun. The barrel was pointed at the floor, but it would take less than a second to raise it. One shot. End this. But Gerald was right. Killing him solved nothing. Unless... What about Lila? Damien asked. What about her? She walks away. Clean. No threats. No leverage. She disappears, and you forget she exists. Gerald considered. And in exchange? I stay. Keep working with you. Rebuild the empire. Business as usual. Lila leaned down, whispered in his ear. Don't. Damien ignored her, kept his eyes on Gerald. Deal? Gerald studied him, looking for the trap, the angle. Then he nodded. Deal. She walks. But you stay. Fine. No, Lila said loudly. Not fine. I'm not leaving you with him. You don't get a vote, Damien said. The hell I don't. After everything, you deserve a life. A real one. Not this. He turned to look at her. Gerald's right. I've been building this empire for 15 years. It's all I know. All I am. But you? You can still get out, start over, be the person your father would have wanted you to be. Tears ran down her face. And what about what I want? What do you want? I want you to stop treating yourself like you're already dead. I want you to fight for something besides survival. I want... She stopped, swallowed. I want you to come with me. Damien's chest tightened. For a moment, one brief, impossible moment, he let himself imagine it. Walking away, starting over, becoming someone who didn't have blood on his balance sheets. Then reality crashed back. I can't, he said quietly. Too many people want me dead. Too many agencies want me locked up. There's no clean exit for me. There never was. There's always a choice. Not anymore. I crossed that line years ago. The only way forward is through. Gerald stood. Touching as this is, do we have a deal or not? Damien looked at Lila one last time, memorized her face, the bruises and the tears and the stubborn set of her jaw. She'd saved his life, changed something in him he didn't know could change. But some people were too far gone to save. We have a deal, Damien said. Excellent. Gerald pulled out a phone, typed a message. I've just wired you $200,000, Miss Mercer. Enough to start fresh. Anywhere in the world. I suggest you use it wisely. Lila's phone buzzed. She looked at it, at the notification of the wire transfer, then at Damien. This is wrong, she said. This is necessary, Damien replied. I could stay. I could help. You could die. And I've got enough ghosts already. He stood. Every muscle screamed, Go, Lila, please, while you still can. She stood there, frozen, torn. Then Gerald's phone rang. He answered, listened. His face went pale. I see, he said. Yes. Understood. He hung up, looked at Damien. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The Korsakovs just got word that Catherine's dead. They're calling an emergency meeting. Everyone connected to her operations. They want to know who's responsible. And they have security footage from the warehouse. Footage of you killing her. Damien's stomach dropped. How? Catherine had cameras everywhere. Her second-in-command released the footage an hour ago. Sent it to every major player in the city. You're not just wanted by the Korsakovs anymore. You're wanted by every crew, every family, every organization that did business with her. The bounty's up to $2 million. $2 million. Dead or alive, but preferably dead, painfully. Lila grabbed Damien's arm. Then we run. Both of us. Right now. Run where? Gerald asked. They have contacts in every city, every airport, every port. You'd never make it out of the state. So what do you suggest? Damien asked. Gerald poured another scotch, drank it in one swallow. I suggest you do what you do best. Go to war. Hit them before they hit you. Burn it all down and salt the earth. That's suicide. No, suicide is sitting here waiting for them to find you. War at least gives you a chance. A chance to do what? I'm one man. Wounded, out of allies, against the entire underworld. Not the entire underworld. Gerald's eyes glittered. I can give you names, addresses, vulnerabilities. Catherine kept detailed files on everyone. Where they live, where they hide their money, where their families sleep. You want to survive? Make them more afraid of you than you are of them. Damien looked at Lila, at Gerald, at the impossible choice between dying slow or dying fast. There's a third option, Lila said quietly. They both turned. We go to the FBI, she said. Right now. You turn yourself in. Cooperate. Give them everything on Gerald, on the Korsakovs, on Catherine's network. Witness protection in exchange for testimony. They'd never take that deal, Gerald said. Damien's killed people, laundered money. He's a criminal. So are you, Lila snapped. Difference is, he might have a conscience left. You clearly don't. Gerald's expression hardened. Careful, Miss Mercer. Our deal was contingent on you leaving quietly. Start making noise and I might reconsider. Your deal can go to hell. Lila, Damien said, stop. No. I'm done watching people manipulate you. Done watching you accept that this is all you deserve. She turned to him. You want to know what your third option is? You burn it all down. Not for revenge, not for survival, but because it's the right thing to do. You take every piece of evidence, every name, every crime, and you make sure no one else's father ends up dead because some rich psychopath decided to play games with people's lives. Silence filled the factory. Gerald was watching her, calculating. Damien was watching her, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time. Not a pawn, not a victim. A woman who'd been broken and put herself back together sharp enough to cut. That's a nice speech, Gerald said. But speeches don't stop bullets. The Korsakovs will find you within 12 hours. FBI deals take weeks to negotiate. You'd be dead long before any protection kicked in. Then we make them think we're already dead, Lila said. How? She looked at Damien. You said this place was a factory. What did they make here? Chemical processing, shut down 8 years ago after an explosion. Explosion, Lila repeated. Perfect. We stage another one. Bigger. Bodies burned beyond recognition. Security footage shows us entering but not leaving. The Korsakovs think they're dead. Gerald thinks we're dead. We buy time to actually get to the FBI. Gerald laughed. That's insane. Insane worked pretty well at the warehouse, she shot back. Damien's mind was racing. It could work. The building was condemned. No one would question another explosion. They'd need bodies, but the morgue had unclaimed corpses. A little breaking and entering, some accelerant, timed charges. We'd need help, he said slowly. I know people, Lila said. Not criminals, normal people. My father's old crew. Some of them owe me. They'd help. And what happens after? We're dead, but we're still fugitives. We're ghosts. We gather evidence, build a case so airtight the FBI can't refuse. Then we walk in with leverage they can't ignore. That could take months, so better than being dead for real. Gerald set down his glass. This conversation is pointless. Even if you pull off this ridiculous plan, I still have insurance, files, videos. You betray me and I bring down everyone. Including yourself, Damien said. You really want to spend your last years in prison? I want to die rich and free, which means keeping you under control. Or it means I put a bullet in you right now and take my chances with your insurance. Damien raised his gun, aimed at Gerald's head. Gerald didn't flinch. Go ahead. Pull the trigger. See what happens. Damien's finger tightened. Lila's hand covered his. Don't. He's not worth it. He's a loose end. So was Catherine. Look how that worked out. Damien's hand shook. 15 years of partnership. 15 years of deals and crimes and compromises. Gerald had made him rich, had kept him out of prison, had been the closest thing to family Damien had left, and had betrayed him at every turn. His finger relaxed. The gun lowered. You're right, Damien said. You're not worth the bullet. Relief flashed across Gerald's face, then confusion. So we continue as before? No, we're done. I'm out. Keep your insurance. Release your files. I don't care anymore. You're bluffing. I'm tired. There's a difference. Damien stood, wavered. Lila caught him. Come on. We have an explosion to stage. They turned to leave. Gerald's voice stopped them. You walk out that door. You're as good as dead. Both of you. We're already dead, Damien said without turning. We just haven't stopped moving yet. They walked out into the night. The cold air was a shock. Damien's legs finally gave out. He collapsed against a wall. Lila held him up. We need to get you medical attention, she said. Real attention, not just pressure bandages. After. First we need... His phone buzzed. Unknown number, again. He answered. A voice. Young, scared, female. Damien Varelli? Who is this? My name's Sarah. I worked for Catherine Volkov. Security detail. I need to talk to you. About what? About the people who are coming to kill you. And about the fact that Gerald Ashford just put a hit out on both of you. $2 million. Active as of 5 minutes ago. Damien's blood went cold. He looked back at the factory. Gerald was already on the phone. Already moving. Already 3 steps ahead. How long do we have? Damien asked. 20 minutes. Maybe less. Every hitter in the city just got the message. They're converging on your location now. How did they... Your phone. Gerald's been tracking it, feeding them real-time coordinates. You need to ditch it. Run. Now. Damien looked at Lila, at the phone in his hand, at the factory where Gerald was undoubtedly watching through cameras, waiting to see them die. Lila, he said quietly, we need to run. Where? I don't know. Anywhere. Nowhere. Just... Headlights appeared at the end of the street. Multiple vehicles. Moving fast. Then more from the opposite direction. They were surrounded. Damien's hand found Lila's. I'm sorry. I got you killed. Not yet, you haven't. She pulled him into the shadows. Come on, there has to be a way. They ran into the maze of the industrial park. Behind them, tires screeched. Doors slammed. Voices shouted orders. The hunt was on. And for the first time in his life, Damien Varelli had absolutely no plan. Just a wounded shoulder, a woman he'd doomed, and maybe 30 seconds before the world came crashing down. He looked at Lila, at her bruised face and determined eyes, and the way she hadn't let go of his hand, even though running alone would be faster, safer, smarter. Whatever happens, he said as they ran through the dark. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank me when we survive, she panted. Behind them, the voices were getting closer. Ahead, the industrial park stretched into shadow and uncertainty. And somewhere in between, there had to be an answer. There had to be. Because the alternative, dying here, in the dark, hunted like animals, that wasn't an ending. That was just cruel. The industrial park was a graveyard of commerce. Rusted machinery loomed like tombstones. Abandoned warehouses stretched in rows, their windows blown out, their doors hanging crooked. Damien and Lila ran through the maze of decay, footsteps echoing off concrete and metal. Behind them, the sound of engines grew louder, closer. Damien's shoulder burned. Each breath was a knife. His vision blurred at the edges, darkness creeping in. Blood loss. Shock. He was running on borrowed time and sheer willpower. Lila pulled him left between two buildings. The alley was narrow, littered with broken pallets and trash. They scrambled over debris, Damien's bad leg nearly giving out twice. Lila caught him each time, kept him moving. There, she gasped. An old delivery truck sat behind a warehouse, tires flat, windshield shattered. But the cargo bay door was open. They dove inside, pulling the door shut behind them. Darkness swallowed them whole. They pressed against the truck's rusted wall, breathing hard, trying to be silent, trying not to collapse. Outside, vehicles screeched to a halt. Doors opened. Footsteps. Voices. Check every building. They're on foot. Can't have gone far. Spread out. Teams of 2. Anyone sees them? Radio first. Shoot second. Ashford wants proof they're dead. Bring him something he can identify. The footsteps dispersed. Some close. Some moving away. Flashlight beams swept through cracks in the truck's cargo bay. Thin lines of light cutting through the dark. Damien and Lila didn't move. Didn't breathe. A beam crossed Damien's face. He closed his eyes. Waited. The beam moved on. The footsteps faded. Silence returned. Thick and suffocating. Lila let out a shaky breath. How many? 20, maybe more. Damien pressed his good hand against his wounded shoulder. The bleeding had slowed but hadn't stopped. His shirt was stiff with dried blood. Fresh warmth seeped between his fingers. We can't stay here. They'll do a second sweep. More thorough. Can you move? Do I have a choice? That's still not an answer. Damien tested his weight. His legs shook but held, barely. I can move. For now. Lila pulled out her phone. The screen was cracked but functional. No signal. No way to call for help. She pulled up a map app, showing cached data from the last time she had service. We're here. The nearest road with traffic is 2 miles northeast. 2 miles might as well be 20. You have a better idea? Damien didn't. He checked his gun. 2 rounds left. Against 20 armed men. The math was brutal and simple. We wait until they move on, he said. Then we go. And if they don't move on, then we get creative. They sat in the dark. Minutes crawled. Outside, the search continued. Voices calling to each other. Engines idling. The systematic destruction of every hiding place in the industrial park. Damien's mind drifted. Blood loss making him lightheaded. He thought about Gerald. About 15 years of partnership ending in betrayal. He should have seen it coming. Should have known that loyalty was just another commodity to be bought and sold. Tell me about your father, he said quietly. Lila looked at him. Why? Because we might die in this truck, and I'd like to know something good about the man I helped destroy. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. He wasn't perfect, drank too much, lost his temper, but he worked. God, did he work. 14-hour days, came home smelling like sweat and copper piping. His hands were always cut up, scarred, but he never complained. What'd he complain about? Me, wanting me to do better, go to college, not end up in trades like him. He had this dream that I'd be a lawyer or a doctor, someone important. She laughed bitterly. Ended up a waitress instead, living his nightmare. You're alive. That's more than most people in our situation can say. For how much longer? Damien didn't answer. There wasn't a good answer. Outside, an engine revved, tires on gravel, a vehicle moving away. Then another. Lila crept to a crack in the cargo bay door, peered out. Some of them are leaving. How many? 3 cars, maybe 10 people. Still leaves 10 more. Better than 20. She had a point. They waited another 15 minutes. The sounds outside grew quieter, more distant. The searchers were moving to other sections of the industrial park, convinced their prey had fled deeper into the maze. Now, Damien said. They climbed out of the truck. The night air was cold and damp. Fog had rolled in thick, reducing visibility to maybe 30 feet. Good for hiding, bad for navigation. Damien oriented himself, northeast, 2 miles. They started walking, staying low, using the buildings for cover. Every step was agony. Damien's shoulder throbbed in rhythm with his heartbeat. His leg dragged. His breathing came in short, pained gasps, but he moved, 1 foot in front of the other, because stopping meant dying, and dying meant Lila died too. They crossed between warehouses, through empty lots, past chain-link fences sagging with rust. The industrial park stretched forever, building after identical building, all empty, all decaying. A sound stopped them. Engine. Close. They pressed against a wall. A SUV rolled past, spotlight sweeping the ground. Looking, hunting. The spotlight passed over their hiding spot. Damien held his breath. Lila's hand found his, squeezed. The SUV moved on. They kept moving. Half a mile. A mile. The buildings started thinning, spaces between them growing wider, less cover, more exposure. Ahead, a fence marked the edge of the industrial park. Beyond it, trees. A thin strip of wood separating the industrial zone from residential neighborhoods. If they could reach the trees, they had a chance. 200 yards. 100. 50. Almost there. Headlights blazed from their left. An SUV roared out from behind a building, directly at them. "Run!" Damien shouted. They sprinted. Damien's body screamed in protest. His vision grayed. He stumbled. Lila pulled him forward. The fence was 20 feet away. Chain link, 8 feet tall, topped with barbed wire. The SUV was closing. 30 feet. 20. Lila hit the fence first, started climbing, fast and desperate. Damien grabbed the chain link, pulled himself up. His wounded shoulder shrieked. He almost let go, forced himself to hold on. "Climb!" The SUV skidded to a halt below them. Doors opened. Men poured out. "Get down from there!" someone shouted. Gunfire answered. Bullets punched through chain link, sparks and screaming metal. Damien climbed faster. His hands were slick with blood. Each grip threatened to slip. Lila reached the top, swung over the barbed wire. Her jacket caught, tore. She dropped to the other side, landed hard. Damien was 3 feet from the top. The men below were aiming. He could see the muzzles tracking him. He lunged, grabbed the top rail, pulled himself over. Barbed wire raked his back. Fresh pain, fresh blood. He didn't care. He fell. Hit the ground on the other side. Something in his ribs cracked. Air exploded from his lungs. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Lila grabbed him. "Get up! Get up!" He got up. They ran into the trees. Behind them, the men hit the fence. Started climbing. The woods were thin, birch and pine, saplings and undergrowth. Not much cover, but better than open ground. They crashed through branches, feet slipping on wet leaves. A clearing opened ahead. Small, maybe 20 feet across. They burst into it and stopped. 4 men stood waiting, weapons raised, flashlights pinning Damien and Lila in a circle of light. "End of the line," one of them said. 40s, scarred face, dead eyes, professional killer. He aimed a pistol at Damien's chest. "On your knees." Damien's hand drifted toward the gun at his back. "Don't," the man said. "You're fast, maybe, but not faster than 4 triggers." "You got a name?" Damien asked. "Doesn't matter. You'll be dead too soon to use it." "Fair enough." Damien's mind raced. 4 gunmen, 2 bullets, 0 chance of winning a straight fight, which meant he needed to not fight straight. "Gerald sent you," Damien said. "Gerald's paying us. Don't really care why. 2 million split 4 ways, that's 500,000 each. Math's not my strong suit, but yeah. What if I told you Gerald's not planning to pay?" The man laughed. "What if I told you I don't care what a dead man says? You should, because Gerald's whole operation is about to collapse. Feds have been building a case. They're coming for everyone connected to him. You kill me, you're next on their list." Nice try. It's not a try, it's a fact. Catherine Volkov kept records, names, transactions, everything. When she died, her second-in-command started shopping those records to law enforcement. Gerald knows this. He's cleaning house, getting rid of loose ends. You really think you're getting paid? You're getting set up. Doubt flickered across the man's face. Just for a second. Damien pressed. "Call him, right now. Ask him about the Volkov records. Watch him lie." "Boss," one of the other gunmen said, "maybe we should—" "Shut up!" The scarred man's jaw worked. "You're stalling. I'm offering you a way out. Help us, and I'll give you something worth more than 2 million. I'll give you Gerald." "Why would we want that?" "Because he's the one with the real money. Offshore accounts, 15 years of laundered cash. Help me take him down, and you can clean out his accounts before the feds freeze them. Split 300 million instead of 2. The scarred man stared. 300 million. Give or take, I've seen the books. I know where it's hidden. Help me survive the night, and I'll give you access. Silence. The four gunmen exchanged glances. Greed versus orders, the eternal calculation. How do we know you're not lying? The scarred man asked. You don't. But if I'm lying, you can still kill me. If I'm telling the truth, you just bought a retirement nobody can touch. The man's finger stayed on the trigger, but he didn't fire. Where's Gerald now? The old factory, 3 miles west. He's sitting there with a laptop, watching tracking data, waiting for confirmation we're dead. And these accounts? Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore. I have the access codes. Memorized. Kill me and they die with me. More silence. The fog was getting thicker, swirling around them like ghosts. Behind the four gunmen, shapes moved in the trees. The rest of the search team, closing in. Decide fast, Damien said, because in 30 seconds, there's going to be a lot more guns pointed at all of us. And I'm betting Gerald told them you were expendable too. The scarred man's eyes flicked to the trees, to the approaching sounds, back to Damien. Deal, he said, but you fuck us, and dying will be a mercy. Understood. The man lowered his weapon, turned to his team. New plan. We're taking these two to Gerald, alive. Boss, that's not 300 million. You want to argue with 300 million? The other gunmen lowered their weapons. Reluctantly, the shapes in the trees materialized. 5 more men, weapons ready. They saw the standoff, stopped. Status? One called. The scarred man called back. We got them. Bringing them in. Gerald said dead. Gerald's not here. I am. We're bringing them in for questioning first. He'll want to confirm it's really them. The newcomers looked uncertain, but the scarred man's tone allowed no argument. Fall in. Perimeter watch. We move now. They formed up. Damien and Lila in the center. 9 armed men around them, walking back toward the industrial park. Lila leaned close to Damien, whispered, What are you doing? Buying time, he whispered back. By promising them money we can't deliver? I didn't say I'd give it to them. I said I'd give them access. There's a difference. What difference? Trust me. They walked in silence. Back through the woods, back over the fence. This time through a gate the gunmen had keys for. Back into the industrial park. The scarred man stayed close to Damien, weapon ready but not aimed. These access codes, how do I know they're real? You'll know when you try them. Not good enough. Damien pulled out his phone, the one Gerald had been tracking. He opened a notes app, typed a string of numbers and letters, showed it to the scarred man. That's a routing number and account access code for a bank in Grand Cayman. Punch it in when we're done here. If it doesn't show 8 figures, shoot me then. The man photographed the screen with his own phone. I will. They reached the factory, the building where Gerald had been waiting. Lights on, inside now. More vehicles parked outside. Gerald had called in reinforcements. The scarred man stopped, looked at the factory, at his men, at Damien. You're sure he's in there? Positive. Probably has security. Maybe 6 guys. He's paranoid. Smart. I would be too. The scarred man raised his radio. All units, converge on the factory. Target inside. Authorization level Alpha. The radio crackled with confirmations. Within minutes, the factory was surrounded. 20 men, all armed, all focused on the building. Now what? The scarred man asked. Now you go in and get him, Damien said. We? You're coming too. I'm wounded. Bleeding out. I'll slow you down. You'll die if we leave you. Then I'll die knowing Gerald went first. That's enough. The scarred man studied him, then grabbed Damien's good arm. You're coming. Insurance. You try anything, the girl dies first. They moved toward the factory. The scarred man's team took point, breached the door. Flashbangs detonated inside. Light and sound and chaos. Damien and Lila were dragged in with the assault team. The factory floor was exactly as they'd left it. Chairs, table, bottle of scotch, but no Gerald. Clear, voices called from different sections. Upstairs clear. Basement clear. The scarred man's face darkened. Where is he? I don't know, Damien said. You said he'd be here. He was here 20 minutes ago. Then where? An explosion ripped through the western wall. The concussion threw everyone to the ground. Damien's ears rang. Debris rained. Smoke filled the air. Through the smoke, figures emerged. Not Gerald's men. Different. Tactical gear. Night vision. Military precision. The Korsakovs had arrived. Dmitri and Alexei walked through the breach like they owned the place. Behind them, a dozen soldiers. Russian mob contractors. Ex-Spetsnaz. The kind of men who'd burned villages for breakfast. Dmitri saw Damien. Smiled. It was a wolf smile. "Damien Virelli, we have been looking for you." The scarred man tried to raise his weapon. A Korsakov soldier shot him in the chest. He went down hard, dead before he hit the ground. The other gunmen scattered, tried to fight, tried to run. The Korsakov's team cut them down methodically, professional, efficient. In 30 seconds, every one of the scarred man's crew was dead or dying. Damien grabbed Lila, pulled her behind an overturned table. Bullets tore through the air above them. "Stay down," he said. "What are you going to do?" "Something stupid." He checked his gun. 2 bullets, against a dozen men. Dmitri's voice cut through the chaos. "Enough! Stop shooting!" The gunfire ceased. "Damien!" Dmitri called. "Come out! We talk!" "Last time we talked, you tried to kill me," Damien shouted back. "That was business. This is also business. Come, let us negotiate." "Negotiate what?" "Your death, quick and clean, or slow and screaming. Your choice." Damien looked at Lila. Her face was pale, determined, terrified. "When I move, you run. Back door. Don't stop." "I'm not leaving." "You don't get a vote." He kissed her forehead. Quick, final. "Thank you. For everything." "Damien." He stood, hands raised, gun visible but not aimed. Dmitri smiled wider. "Smart. Come closer." Damien walked forward, slowly, every step measured. He was 15 feet from Dmitri when he stopped. "Closer," Dmitri said. "This is close enough. You are in no position to negotiate distance. And you're in no position to collect Gerald's bounty if you turn me into hamburger. 2 million dead or alive, right?" "Alive pays the same." Alexei spat. "We don't care about Gerald's money. We care about our money, the merger you destroyed." "I didn't destroy it. Your own paranoia did." "You made us look weak," Dmitri said. "Walked away from our table. Made us chase you through the city like dogs. This is about respect." "Respect?" Damien laughed. It hurt his ribs. "You want respect? From the man who was about to sign away your operation to federal prosecutors. Catherine Volkov was using you, using all of us. That merger was a federal trap." "Catherine is dead." "Yeah, I killed her. You're welcome." Dmitri's hand drifted to his sidearm. "Careful. I'm way past careful. I'm bleeding out in a condemned factory surrounded by people who want me dead. Careful left the building hours ago." Damien swayed. His vision was tunneling. He was running out of time. "But before you shoot me, ask yourself who benefits from this. Catherine's gone. Gerald's gone. You kill me, who's left? Who's been playing you this whole time?" "What are you talking about?" "Gerald. He set up the merger to fail, fed you bad intel, made you think I was the problem, but he was working with Catherine the whole time, planning to take your money, my money, everyone's money. And when it collapsed, he'd blame us. Let us kill each other while he walked away clean." "Lies," Alexei said. "Then explain how Catherine knew about the merger, how she had detailed files on your operations, how she knew exactly which companies to put on page 4 to trigger federal scrutiny. Someone gave her that information, someone with access to everything." Dmitri's eyes narrowed. "Gerald. Gerald. And he's probably sitting somewhere right now watching this on camera, waiting for you to finish me off so he can claim I died resisting arrest or some shit. Cash the bounty. Disappear. Where is he?" "I don't know, but I know how to find him." Damien pulled out his phone, the tracking app Gerald had been using. "He's been following my phone, which means the signal goes both ways. We reverse it. We find him." "We?" Dmitri's gun came up, pointed at Damien's head. "There is no we. There is you dying. The only question is how much you suffer first. Then you'll never find Gerald, never get your money back, never know who else he's sold you out to. We will find him, eventually. Eventually he's gone. With your money, your secrets, everything." Damien met Dmitri's eyes. Or we end this now. Together. I help you get Gerald. You let me and the girl walk. Why would we agree to this? Because Gerald's sitting on 300 million in offshore accounts. Kill me and you get nothing. Let me live and I'll give you half. Alexei laughed. Half of what we already own? Half of what he stole from everyone. Catherine, Marcus, the shell companies. 15 years of laundered money from 100 different operations. It's all there, hidden, and I know where. Dmitri and Alexei exchanged a glance, a conversation without words, the kind of thing brothers do. You are lying, Dmitri said finally. Maybe. But what if I'm not? What's the cost of finding out? An hour of your time? You're already here. Already hunting. Hunt Gerald instead of me. If I'm lying, kill me then. If I'm not, you're rich enough to retire. More silence. Damien's legs were shaking. He was barely staying upright. Blood dripped from his fingertips. Steady. Rhythmic. A countdown to collapse. Alexei spoke in Russian, fast and harsh. Dmitri responded. They argued, voices rising. Then Dmitri turned back to Damien. Show us. But girl stays here. Insurance. No deal. She comes with me or nothing. You're in no position to bargain. Then shoot me, because I'm not leaving her here to die. Dmitri's finger tightened on the trigger. For a long moment, the world balanced on that edge. Life or death. A microgram of pressure. Then he lowered the gun. Fine. She comes, but she stays close. Anyone runs, everyone dies. Deal. Damien turned to Lila. She stood slowly from behind the table, shaking but whole. They gathered around Damien's phone. He opened the tracking app. The interface was simple. A map. His phone's location marked with a blue dot. And somewhere in the code, a back door that would show where the tracking signal was being received. Damien's fingers flew across the screen. He wasn't a hacker, but he'd learned basics over the years. Enough to navigate systems. Enough to find vulnerabilities. There. A secondary connection. An IP address, receiving the location data in real time. He fed the IP into a trace program. Waited. The program thought. Calculated. Triangulated. A red dot appeared on the map, 6 miles away. Downtown. The address resolved. Ashford and Associates, Damien read. Gerald's office building, 35th floor. He went back? Lila asked. Lila Kizis. Probably figured it was the last place we'd look, plus he's got security there, cameras, control. Damien looked at Dmitri. That's where he is, right now. Dmitri studied the screen, then nodded to his men. We go, fast and quiet. If Gerald runs, we lose him. They moved out. 3 vehicles, Damien and Lila in the back of one, sandwiched between Korsakov's soldiers. No chance to escape. No chance to do anything but sit and try not to bleed to death on the leather seats. The drive was a blur, city lights streaking past, Lila's hand in his, her pulse rapid against his palm. This is insane, she whispered. I know. We're not getting out of this. Probably not. So why? Because Gerald needs to pay, and because if we're dying anyway, might as well die doing the right thing. She was quiet. Then she squeezed his hand. My father would have liked you. In a different life. When you weren't a criminal. In a different life, I wouldn't have destroyed him. In a different life, we wouldn't have met. Damien looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his world by accident, who'd been used as a weapon, who'd somehow become the only person he trusted. I'm glad we met, he said quietly. Even if it kills us? Especially if it kills us. The vehicle stopped. They'd arrived. Gerald's building rose above them, glass and steel. 40 stories of legitimate business and hidden crimes. The lobby was dark. After hours. Locked down. Dmitri's team exited the vehicles, moved to the entrance. One of them produced a key card, probably lifted from a security guard. The doors unlocked. They entered. Moved through the lobby like ghosts, silent, professional. Took the stairs instead of elevators. Less chance of being trapped. 35 floors. Damien counted each one. His legs turned to lead. His breathing came in gasps. Lila helped him. Step after step. Dmitri's men watched them, patient, predatory. They reached the 35th floor. The hallway was dark, emergency lights providing minimal illumination. Gerald's office was at the end, corner suite. The door was closed. Dmitri raised a fist. His team stopped. He pointed at two men. They moved to the door, tested the handle, locked. They produced tools, picked it in seconds. The door swung open. Darkness inside. Dmitri's men entered first, weapons raised, night vision, sweeping for threats. "Clear," one called. They moved in. Damien and Lila were pushed forward, into the office, into the dark. The lights came on. Gerald sat at his desk, hands folded, calm, like he'd been waiting for them. "Gentlemen," he said, "right on time." Dmitri aimed at him. "Where is our money?" "What money?" "The accounts. Offshore. 300 million. Gerald smiled. "There are no accounts. There's no money. Damien was lying to you, as usual." Dmitri turned to Damien, rage darkening his face. "You—" "Wait," Damien said. "He's lying. The accounts exist, but they're not offshore. They're right here." He moved to Gerald's desk, to the laptop sitting open. Gerald reached for it. Damien was faster, grabbed the laptop, spun the screen to face Dmitri. Banking software, multiple windows, accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, Singapore. Just like he'd said. And the balances. 8 figures, 9 in sum. Total, $347 million. Dmitri's eyes widened. "How—" "15 years of skimming," Damien said. "Every deal, every transaction. Gerald took his percentage and hid it. Built himself a retirement no one could touch." Gerald stood. His hand drifted to a desk drawer. "Don't," Alexei said, aiming at him. Gerald froze. "The access codes," Dmitri said to Damien. "Give them." "Not yet. First, Gerald tells us the truth, all of it. Who else was involved? Who else gets burned when this goes public?" "Public?" Gerald laughed. "You think you're going to expose me? You're all criminals. The moment any of you talks, you go to prison. Maybe, but you go first. You have no proof." "I have this." Damien tapped the laptop. "Every transaction, every transfer. Your name on everything. That's enough for the feds, enough for Rico, enough to put you away for life." Gerald's calm cracked. "You wouldn't. Watch me." Damien pulled out his phone. The same phone Gerald had been tracking. He opened an encrypted email, attached the banking files from the laptop, addressed it to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. His finger hovered over send. "Wait," Gerald said. "We can make a deal. Split the money. All of us. No one talks. Everyone walks away rich. I'm done making deals with you. Damien, please. We're partners. We've built this together. Don't throw it away. You threw it away when you put a hit on me, when you tried to kill Lila, when you decided profit mattered more than loyalty." "Loyalty?" Gerald's voice rose. "I've kept you out of prison for 15 years. I've cleaned up your messes, protected you, made you rich. And this is how you repay me? You betrayed me first. I tried to save you, from Catherine, from yourself, from nothing. You tried to save your own ass, and you were willing to burn everyone else to do it." Gerald's hand inched toward the drawer again. "Don't," Dmitri repeated. Gerald's hand shot into the drawer, came out with a pistol. 5 guns fired simultaneously. Gerald jerked, blood sprayed. He collapsed behind the desk. The gun clattered from his hand. Silence. Dmitri walked around the desk, looked down at Gerald's body. "He is dead." "Good," Damien said. His voice was hollow, empty. He felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, just exhaustion. Dmitri turned to him. "The access codes. Now." Damien looked at the laptop, at the accounts containing Gerald's stolen fortune, at the men with guns pointed at him and Lila. "Okay," he said, "I'll give you access. But first you need to understand something." "What?" "These accounts. They're not just Gerald's. They're connected to every operation he ever touched, including yours. You access them, you leave a digital trail. The feds will trace it, find you, arrest you." "You are lying again." "Check for yourself. Look at the transaction histories. See how many of those transfers connect to your docks, your trucks, your operations. It's all there. A roadmap for prosecutors." Dmitri's face darkened. He looked at the laptop, at the accounts. "Then what do we do?" We destroy it, all of it, wipe the accounts, burn the evidence, and everyone walks away. Walk away with nothing? Walk away alive and free. This is not acceptable. It's reality. You take that money, you're signing your own arrest warrant. You walk away, you survive. Alexei spoke in Russian again, harsh, angry. Dmitri responded. They argued for a full minute. Weapons still trained on Damien and Lila, still ready to fire. Finally, Dmitri turned back. We take half. Wire it to clean accounts. Untraceable. There's no such thing as untraceable anymore. Then we take our chances. Fine, do it. But when the feds come, don't say I didn't warn you. Dmitri's eyes narrowed, then he gestured to one of his men. You. Transfer funds. Half to our accounts. Half stays. The man moved to the laptop, started typing access codes, account numbers, transfer protocols. While he worked, Damien leaned close to Lila, whispered, When I move, you go left, behind the file cabinets. Don't stop. What are you... Trust me. The man at the laptop finished typing, looked at Dmitri. Ready. Need final authorization. Dmitri nodded. The man hit enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every screen in the office went black. What is this? Dmitri demanded. Failsafe, Damien said. Gerald was paranoid, built in a virus that triggers if anyone tries to access the accounts without his biometric signature, fingerprint, or retina scan. You said you had access codes. I do, but the codes alone aren't enough. You need his fingerprint too. Then we use his hand. He's dead. Fingerprints degrade within minutes of death. Blood stops circulating, skin dries out. It won't work. Dmitri's gun came up, pointed at Damien's head. You lied. I told you what you wanted to hear. You chose to believe it. You will die for this. Probably, but at least Gerald's fortune dies with me. At least his empire burns. That's worth something. Dmitri's finger tightened on the trigger. Damien closed his eyes, waited for the end. A voice came from the doorway. FBI, weapons down, now! Everyone froze. A dozen federal agents poured into the office. Vests, rifles, focused and coordinated. They'd been waiting, watching. The woman who'd called Sarah, Catherine's former security. She'd been working with the feds the whole time. Dmitri's team tried to resist. The agents cut them down with non-lethal rounds, rubber bullets and bean bags. Dmitri and Alexei went down hard, zip-tied before they could move. Damien raised his hands. Don't shoot, we're cooperating. An agent moved to him. Damien Varelli? That's me. You're under arrest. Multiple charges, murder, racketeering, money laundering. I know, but I have information. Names, accounts, evidence. I want to make a deal. The agent looked at him, at the laptop, at Gerald's body. We'll talk. Downtown. They zip-tied Damien's hands, read him his rights, did the same to Lila. As they were let out, Damien looked back at the office, at Gerald's body behind the desk, at the laptop screen still showing black, at the empire he'd built crumbling in real time. Is it over? Lila asked quietly as they walked. Almost, Damien said. One more thing. What? We survive what comes next. They were loaded into separate vehicles, driven downtown, to federal building, to interrogation rooms and processing, and the grinding machinery of justice. And as the city slid past outside the window, Damien felt something he hadn't felt in 15 years. Relief. Not freedom. Not yet. Maybe never. But relief that the running was over, that the lies had stopped, that whatever came next it would be faced head-on instead of from the shadows. The vehicle stopped, doors opened, agents pulled him out. He looked up at the federal building, concrete and glass, flags and eagles, the weight of law and order. He thought about Victor, about Robert Mercer, about every person crushed under the empire he'd built. And he thought about Lila, somewhere in another vehicle, another interrogation room, facing her own reckoning. Let's go, an agent said. Damien walked forward, into the building, into whatever came next, and somewhere above, dawn was breaking. The night was finally over, but the war had just begun. The interrogation room smelled like industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Concrete walls painted institutional beige. A metal table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs. A mirror that wasn't a mirror. Damien sat in one chair, hands cuffed to a steel ring embedded in the table. His shoulder had been bandaged, field dressing by a federal medic who'd looked at him like he was already dead. The bleeding had stopped, but the pain hadn't. It radiated through his entire left side, sharp and insistent, a reminder that he was still breathing despite everything. The door opened. A woman entered. Mid-40s, dark suit, hair pulled back severe. She carried a folder thick enough to be a weapon. Her eyes were the color of winter sky, cold and assessing. "Damien Varelli," she said, sitting across from him. "I'm Special Agent Rebecca Torres, Financial Crimes Division. We've been building a case against you for 3 years. 3 years, that's dedication. That's my job." She opened the folder. Photographs spilled across the table, crime scenes, surveillance shots, bank records. "You've been busy. 15 years of money laundering, racketeering, tax evasion, and that's just the financial crimes. We haven't even gotten to the bodies yet." Damien looked at the photos, recognized most of them. His handiwork, direct or indirect. "I want to make a deal." Everyone wants to make a deal. Question is, what do you have worth dealing for? Gerald Ashford's entire operation, client lists, account numbers, shell companies, every dirty transaction for the last 20 years. Torres leaned back. "Gerald Ashford is dead. Shot 5 times in his office. You were there, along with the Korsakov brothers and half the Russian mob in the Northeast." "I didn't kill him." "But you were complicit. That makes you an accessory." "I was trying to survive. There's a difference. Not in the eyes of the law." Torres pulled out another photo. This one showed Damien in a warehouse 2 years ago. A man on his knees in front of him, gun in Damien's hand. "Nikolai Volkov, age 23. You executed him over $30,000. Damien's jaw tightened. That video was stolen. That video was evidence. Catherine Volkov provided it before she died, along with a sworn statement that you murdered her son in cold blood. We have motive. We have opportunity. We have your face on camera pulling the trigger. That's murder 1. Life without parole. Minimum. I want a lawyer. You'll get one. But first, let's talk about what you're facing. Murder. Multiple counts, RICO violations, money laundering conspiracy. The feds are throwing everything at you. You're looking at 3 consecutive life sentences. You'll die in prison, old and forgotten." Damien stared at the table, at his cuffed hands, at the photographs of his crimes laid out like playing cards. "What do you want from me?" "Everything. Names, accounts, operations. Everyone you've ever worked with. Everyone who's ever paid you. Everyone who's dirty. You give us that and maybe we talk about a reduced sentence." "How reduced?" 25 to 30 years. With good behavior, you might see daylight before you're 70. "That's not a deal. That's still a death sentence." "It's the only sentence you're getting. Take it or rot." Torres gathered the photos, started to stand. "Wait," Damien said. "What about Lila Mercer?" Torres paused. "What about her?" "She's innocent. She was manipulated, used. She didn't know what she was walking into. She aided and abetted a fugitive, discharged a firearm in commission of a felony, fled from law enforcement. That's 3 to 5 years minimum. She was defending herself, defending me. You can't charge her for that. We can charge her for whatever the evidence supports. And right now, the evidence says she's complicit." Torres sat back down, leaned forward. "But if you cooperate fully, and I mean fully, we might be willing to look at her involvement differently. Witness protection, new identity, clean slate." She walks away. "In exchange for what?" "Everything. You testify against everyone. The Korsakovs, Gerald's clients, every dirty cop, every corrupt official, every money launderer you've ever met. You burn it all down. And you do it without reservation." Damien was quiet. The room hummed with fluorescent light. Outside the mirror, he knew there were people watching, recording, analyzing every word, every gesture. "I need to see her," he said finally. "Lila, I need to know she's okay." "That's not how this works." "Make it how it works. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Then I'll give you everything." Torres studied him, looking for the angle, the manipulation. "Why?" "Because she deserves to know the truth. About her father. About everything. And because I owe her that much." Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood. 5 minutes. That's it. And you're still cuffed. She left. The room fell silent. 10 minutes later, the door opened again. Lila walked in, escorted by an agent. She looked small in oversized prison scrubs. Her face was bruised, one eye still swollen, but she was alive. Whole. The agent uncuffed her from his escort chain but left her hands bound, sat her in the chair across from Damien. 5 minutes, he said, and stepped outside. They were alone. Sort of. The cameras still watched, but for now, it was just them. Hey, Damien said. Hey. Lila's voice was rough, like she'd been crying, or screaming, or both. You okay? Define okay. She looked at her cuffed hands. They're saying I helped you, that I'm an accessory, that I could go to prison. I'm fixing that. They're offering you a deal, witness protection, new life. You walk away clean. In exchange for what? Me. I testify. Give them everything. You go free. Lila's eyes filled. Don't do that. Don't make this about saving me. Someone should get saved. Might as well be you. I don't want to be saved if it means you die in prison. I was already dying in prison, just a different kind. At least this way it means something. She shook her head. Tears spilled over. This is my fault. If I hadn't delivered that message, If you hadn't delivered that message, I'd be dead. Gerald would have won. The Korsakovs would have won. Everyone would have won except the people who deserved to. Damien leaned as close as the cuffs allowed. You didn't start this. Catherine did. Gerald did. I did. 15 years ago when I chose money over morality. But you? You tried to do the right thing, even when it hurt, even when it was dangerous. That's more than I can say. The right thing still got people killed. The right thing always costs something. That's what makes it right. Lila wiped her eyes with bound hands. Awkward. Painful. What happens now? Now you take their deal. You disappear. You build a life somewhere safe. You become the person your father wanted you to be. And you? I pay for what I've done. All of it. No more running. No more excuses. That's not fair. Fair's got nothing to do with it. It's just what is. Damien's throat tightened. I need you to know something. Your father, Robert Mercer, he didn't kill himself because he was weak. He killed himself because the world crushed him. And I was part of that world. I didn't pull the trigger, but I loaded the gun. I'm sorry for all of it. Lila was crying openly now. I hated you for 7 years. I hated you so much. You should, but now I don't. And that makes it worse. Because hating you was easier than this. Then what? Than caring whether you live or die. The door opened. The agent stepped back in. Time's up. Lila stood. Damien did too, as much as the cuffs allowed. Take care of yourself, he said. You too. Lila, one more thing. She stopped at the door, looked back. When you get out, when you build that new life, don't forget who you are. Don't forget Robert Mercer's daughter survived. That matters. She nodded. Then she was gone. Damien sat back down. The room felt emptier, colder. He stared at the mirror, knowing Torres was watching. Okay, he said to his reflection. Let's talk. The next 6 hours were a blur of names and numbers, account details and location coordinates. Damien gave them everything, every client Gerald had represented, every shell company, every dirty transaction. He drew organizational charts on whiteboards, identified players in surveillance photos, connected dots the FBI had been trying to connect for years. Torres took notes, recorded everything, brought in specialists when the testimony got technical. By the end, they had enough to bring down 30 major criminal enterprises and a dozen corrupt officials. That's everything? Torres asked. Everything I know. If we find out you held back, I didn't. I'm done holding back, done protecting people who never protected me. Torres closed her notebook. The U.S. Attorney will review your cooperation, decide on sentencing recommendations. Until then, you're remanded to federal custody. Maximum security, no bail. What about Lila? Her deal's being processed. She'll be in witness protection by tomorrow. New name, new location. You'll never see her again. Good. That's good. They moved him to a cell. Concrete and steel. 8 by 10, a cot bolted to the wall, a toilet, a sink. No windows. Just the door with a slot for food and a small reinforced window for guards to check on him. Damien lay on the cot, stared at the ceiling. Every muscle ached. His shoulder throbbed. His ribs hurt with every breath. But he was alive. For now. Days blurred together. Meals came and went. Lawyers visited. Federal prosecutors. Public defenders appointed to represent him. They talked about plea deals and trial strategies and what kind of sentence he might face if he cooperated versus if he fought. Damien didn't fight. There was no point. The evidence was overwhelming. The testimony was damning. He'd killed people, laundered money, built an empire on blood and lies. There was no defense for that, just consequences. 3 weeks after his arrest, they brought him to court, shackled and in an orange jumpsuit. The courtroom was packed, press, victims' families, federal agents. The Korskov brothers sat in their own section, also shackled, glaring at Damien with murder in their eyes. The judge was an older woman, gray hair, hard eyes. She'd seen everything. Nothing impressed her. Nothing shocked her. "Damien Varelli," she said, reading from the charges. "You are charged with 37 counts, including murder, racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy. How do you plead?" Damien's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client wishes to enter a guilty plea to all charges in exchange for consideration based on his cooperation with federal authorities." The judge looked at Damien. "Is that correct? You're pleading guilty?" Damien stood. "Yes, Your Honor." "You understand what that means? You're waiving your right to trial, accepting full responsibility." "I understand." "And you're doing this voluntarily? No one's coercing you?" "Voluntarily." The judge made notes. "Sentencing will be scheduled for 6 weeks from today. Until then, you'll remain in federal custody. Dismissed." The bailiffs let him out. Back to the cell. Back to the waiting. 6 weeks passed like 6 years. Damien read books from the prison library. Worked out in his cell. Answered more questions from prosecutors building cases against the people he'd named. He saw his face on the news. Heard reporters call him a monster, a criminal mastermind, a cautionary tale. They weren't wrong. Sentencing day arrived cold and gray. The courtroom was even more packed than before. The judge took her seat, reviewed the paperwork. "Mr. Varelli," she said, "I've read the cooperation agreements, the testimony you've provided, the cases you've helped build. The prosecution has recommended 25 years with possibility of parole after 20. Do you wish to make a statement before I render sentence?" Damien stood. His lawyer had advised against this, said anything he said could only hurt. But Damien didn't care. "Your Honor," he began. His voice was steady, clear. "I'm not going to stand here and make excuses. I did what I'm accused of. I killed people. I stole. I built an empire on the backs of honest people trying to make a living. I told myself it was business, that it was survival, that everyone did it. But that was a lie. What I did was wrong. And people died because of it." The courtroom was silent. Robert Mercer was a contractor, a father, a man trying to provide for his family. I destroyed him without knowing his name, without caring. He was just collateral damage. And he's not the only one. There are others. People whose names I don't even know. People who lost everything because I wanted more. Damien's hands shook. He gripped the table to steady them. "I can't bring them back. I can't undo what I've done. All I can do is tell the truth and accept the consequences. So whatever sentence you give me, I'll serve it. Not because I'm trying to bargain for less time, but because it's what I owe to Robert Mercer, to Nikolai Volkov, to everyone I hurt. I'm done running. I'm done lying. I'm just done." He sat. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "Mr. Varelli, your cooperation has been substantial. You've helped dismantle criminal organizations that have operated with impunity for decades. That cooperation will be reflected in your sentence. However, your crimes are serious. You took lives. You destroyed families. You corrupted institutions. Those crimes demand accountability." She paused, reviewed her notes. "I'm sentencing you to 20 years in federal prison, eligible for parole after 15 years with good behavior. You'll serve your time in a maximum security facility. Upon release, you'll be subject to 10 years supervised probation. Do you understand this sentence?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Bailiff, remand the defendant." They let him out, back through the corridors, back to the holding cells. But this time there was an end in sight. 20 years, maybe 15. It wasn't freedom, but it was something. The months that followed established a rhythm. Prison was brutal but survivable. Damien kept his head down, worked in the library, avoided gang politics, focused on each day as it came. He thought about Lila often, wondered where she was, who she'd become, if she ever thought about him. He hoped not. Hoped she'd built something good, something clean, something worth the price they'd both paid. Letters came occasionally, from prosecutors updating him on cases, from victims' families, some forgiving, some cursing. He read them all, responded when he could, tried to offer what closure words could provide. One letter came different from the rest. No return address. Postmarked from Montana. Inside a single page. Handwritten. I'm okay. Building something new. It's hard, but it's mine. I think about that night sometimes. About everything we lost and everything we survived. You were right. Fair has nothing to do with it. But maybe redemption does. I hope you find yours. I'm looking for mine. Take care of yourself. L. Damien read it 3 times. Folded it carefully. Kept it in his cell, hidden behind a loose brick. Proof that somewhere, someone had survived. Someone was building. Someone had found a way forward. It was enough. Years passed. Damien aged. Gray crept into his hair. Lines deepened around his eyes. His shoulder never healed quite right. Permanent damage from that night in the warehouse. But he lived. He attended classes. Got his GED, then an associate's degree through a prison program. Studied accounting. The irony wasn't lost on him. Learning to do legally what he'd once done criminally. The parole board reviewed his case in year 14. Looked at his record, his cooperation, the lives he'd helped save by providing information that stopped other crimes. They deliberated for 3 hours. Then they granted parole. Conditional, supervised. But parole. Damien walked out of prison on a gray morning in October, 15 years to the month since his arrest. The world had changed. Technology had evolved. Cities had shifted. But the sky was still the same. The air still tasted like freedom. A caseworker met him, explained the terms. Monthly check-ins, employment requirements, travel restrictions. The conditions of his release. Damien nodded through it all, signed the papers. Where will you go, what? The caseworker asked. I don't know yet. You need an address, somewhere we can reach you. Damien thought for a moment, then he gave an address. A halfway house in the city where it all started, where he'd built his empire, where it had fallen. He moved in that afternoon. The room was small, clean, a bed, a desk, a window that looked out at brick walls. But it was his. No bars, no guards, just space and silence and possibility. He got a job 3 days later, bookkeeping for a small construction company. The owner knew his record, hired him anyway, said everyone deserved a second chance. Damien worked hard, kept his head down, learned the business. Months passed, then a year, then 2. The parole check-ins became routine. The caseworker started trusting him, gave him more freedom, allowed travel within the state. Damien used that freedom to visit graves. Robert Mercer's was in a cemetery outside the city. Simple headstone, no flowers. Damien bought some, set them down, stood there for a long time. I'm sorry, he said to the stone. I can't fix what I did, but I'm trying to be better. Your daughter, Lila, she's okay. She's building something good. I thought you should know. The wind rustled through trees. A bird called. Life continued. Damien visited every month after that. Brought flowers, kept the grave clean. It was small, insufficient, but it was something. He visited Nikolai Volkov's grave too. That was harder. Catherine's grave was beside her son's. Damien stood between them. 2 people dead because of him. One directly, one indirectly. Both permanent. I'm sorry, he said again. Words that meant nothing and everything. I can't undo this, but I'm trying to make sure no one else ends up here because of me. He visited Victor's grave. That one broke him. Victor, who'd been loyal when loyalty was expensive, who'd died protecting him, who deserved better than a bullet in a crumbling apartment. You saved my life, Damien said, kneeling at the headstone. More than once. I'm trying to make that mean something, trying to be worth what you gave. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I'm trying. 5 years after his release, Damien's parole officer called him in for a review. Standard procedure. But when Damien arrived, the officer smiled. Congratulations, he said. Your parole's being terminated early. Good behavior, steady employment, community involvement. You're officially a free man. Damien sat down hard. Free. Free. No more check-ins, no more restrictions. You can travel, move, do whatever you want. Clean slate. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep doing what you're doing. Stay clean. Stay honest. That's all anyone can ask. Damien walked out of that office in a daze. Free. Actually, free. For the first time in 20 years, no one was watching. No one was monitoring. He could go anywhere, do anything. He went to work, finished his shift, went home, sat in his small apartment and stared at the walls. Freedom felt strange, empty, like he didn't know what to do with it. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Female, familiar. Damien? His heart stopped. Lila? Yeah, it's me. I heard you got released. I wanted to call to see how you were. How did you... I have ways of keeping track, making sure you were okay. I know that's probably creepy, but it's not creepy. It's... He didn't know what it was. Where are you? Montana, small town. I run a community center, help at-risk kids. Try to keep them from making the mistakes I made. That's good. That's really good. What about you? What are you doing? Bookkeeping, construction company, visiting graves, trying to figure out what redemption looks like. She was quiet. Then she laughed, soft and sad. We're a pair, aren't we? Both trying to build something from rubble. Yeah, we are. Damien, She paused. I don't know if this is appropriate, but there's a bench dedication happening next week at the cemetery where my father's buried. I'm having one installed, in his memory. I thought if you wanted, you could come. You don't have to. I just thought I'd offer. I'll be there. Yeah? Yeah, just tell me when. She gave him the details. They talked for a few more minutes, catching up, carefully, dancing around the weight of everything unsaid. Then she had to go. Work, life, the things that filled the spaces between trauma. Damien? She said before hanging up. Yeah? I'm glad you made it out. Me too. Both of us. The line went dead. Damien sat holding the phone. 20 years. That's how long it had taken to get from that restaurant to this moment. From a pen hovering over a contract to a phone call from someone who'd survived the same fire. He booked a flight to Montana. His first time on a plane since before prison. The world looked different from above. Smaller. More fragile. He pressed his forehead to the window and watched clouds roll past. The cemetery was outside a small town surrounded by mountains. Clean air, big sky. The kind of place where you could breathe, where the past didn't press quite so heavy. Lila stood by a bench that overlooked the valley. Simple wood. A plaque that read, "In memory of Robert Mercer, a father, a builder, a man who deserved better." She saw Damien approaching, didn't smile, didn't frown, just watched him come. He stopped a few feet away. They looked at each other. 20 years older, different, changed, but recognizably the same people who'd run through industrial parks and survived gunfire and faced impossible choices. "Hey," Damien said. "Hey?" "The bench is beautiful." He would have hated it, said it was too fancy, but I think he'd have appreciated the thought. They stood in silence, looking at the grave, at the bench, at the valley spreading below. "I'm sorry," Damien said finally, "for all of it, for your father, for dragging you into my mess, for—" "Stop," Lila said quietly. "We've both apologized enough. We've both paid enough. At some point, we have to let it be what it is and try to move forward." "Can we? Move forward?" She looked at him. "I don't know, but I'm willing to try if you are." Damien sat on the bench. After a moment, Lila sat beside him. Not close, but not far. Just two people who'd survived the same war sitting in the aftermath. What do we do now? He asked. I don't know. Maybe we just sit here for a while. Look at the view, remember the people we lost, and then we get up and keep going. That's it? That's everything. They sat. The sun moved across the sky. The valley filled with golden light. Birds called. Wind moved through grass. The world continued turning, indifferent to their pain and their survival. Eventually, Lila stood. I have to get back. Work. Kids who need me. Yeah. I should get back too. Will you? She hesitated. Will you stay in touch? Not every day. Not even every week. But just sometimes? I'd like that. Good. Me too. She walked away, stopped, turned back. Damien? Yeah? Thank you. For taking responsibility, for not making excuses, for trying to be better. That matters. So does what you've built. Those kids you're helping, they're lucky to have you. She smiled, small but genuine. Then she was gone. Damien sat alone on the bench, Robert Mercer's grave in front of him, the valley stretching forever. He thought about everything that had led here, every choice, every consequence, every person lost and every person saved. He thought about the pen hovering over that contract, about Lila's whispered warning, about the moment everything changed, and he thought about the fact that he was still here, still breathing, still trying. That had to count for something. He stood, touched the bench one more time, a silent goodbye and a silent promise. Then he walked back to his rental car, back to the airport, back to his life. 20 years ago, an empire had fallen. People had died. Justice had been brutal and incomplete. But two people had survived. Two people were building. Two people were trying to make the rubble mean something. And somewhere in that trying, in that building, in that refusal to give up, there was hope. Not redemption. Maybe never redemption. But hope. And for now, that was enough. Damien Varelli drove away from the cemetery as the sun set behind the mountains. The road stretched ahead, unknown, uncertain, but forward, always forward, because going back was death, and he'd already died once. This time, he was going to live.